Hey everybody, I'm just about to add TJ, aka Trapper Keeper, in just a minute or so. I see Super Batman Nerd and Blissful are already in the chat. And thank you, Super Batman Nerd, for mentioning what that comic book code was. It's the CCA for short. And hey, Blissful. And we've got probably six people because it's probably counting TJ as the seventh, I figure. But I'm going to go ahead and add TJ real quick here. Hey, TJ.
How's it going, Dana?
Little bit of a temp, but I'll live. I'll make it through this thing.
Is it in the hundreds still?
Yeah, but
That's it's been this long. I think you might want to go to a doctor.
you sound like my husband.
You might have an infection or something. You might need some antibiotics.
Well, Steve told me that I need to. He said if you go another week or so with it doing this, he said you're gonna have to go. So, um, but I did want to show off something I got in today. I did get a Thanksgiving shirt, which TJ's going to give us his spoiler-free review. Ooh, that's cool looking. That's cool.
I like this one better because it doesn't have the title and everything. I like that sometimes. I like it.
Yeah, kind of more minimalist, I guess, by not having the title. But I have one of the shirts on that I got, and I couldn't help myself. I had to get this. Let me kind of try to bend down a little bit. This is a Sleepaway Camp 2 Ernest Goes to Camp mashup shirt.
That's
And I just thought this was so cool, so I had to get it from Fright Rags. They had one that was like a Sleepaway Camp and Meatballs mashup, but the only size they had was small, and I wasn't going to risk it because the Fright Rag shirts are kind of more form fitting anyway, and
this is
so
a large. If I got a medium, I wouldn't have. It would have been ridiculous. This is already tight and it's a large.
yeah. But the Thanksgiving shirt I ended up getting from Fright Rags was this one.
Yeah. I can only afford one, so this is the one.
Yeah. Well, Steve will kill me when he finds out how many of these damn shirts I got. Not all of them were Thanksgiving shirts. They were different shirts, but
Felissa Rose has some new shirts. You should check out her Instagram.
oh yeah, I'll have to do that.
Terra Threads did some sexy Felissa Rose shirts.
Oh, interesting. This is the South Bend Shovel Slayer shirt. That's like uh, a horror version of Home Alone. There, uh, I just thought that was neat. I wanted Clark's Revenge also, but they were sold out of the Clark's Revenge in all sizes. I think I can show this one. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any nudity on it. This is a I Spit on Your Grave shirt. It's kind of gritty and stuff. And then the last one I got, it was a Last Drive-In shirt for the Jamboree. I didn't get to go to the Jamboree, but I just thought that shirt was cool.
Night of the Demons.
Yeah. So I'm gonna like it.
Not sponsored.
You're right. I've got a Pepsi product too, so we're both well. It's a shame Pepsi won't sponsor me, but
Yes.
I think they're probably afraid their stock would plummet or something if they sponsored me. But anyways, Super Batman Nerd, you're feeling kind of under the weather too. He says same here, a little groggy throat and heavy cough. But I'm taking a bunch of medicine like Dayquil, NyQuil, and eating cough drops like candy. Speaking of eating cough drops like candy, does anybody remember the Luden's Wild Cherry? those things were candy. And my mom used to get those when she was a kid. She said you used to be, I think she told me you used to be able to get them out of a vending machine when she was in school. I don't think they do that kind of thing now, but she used to get them.
Scroll.
Yeah, yeah. I could have sworn that's what she told me, that she was able to get them out of a vending machine. And back when my mom was in school, that was probably really cheap compared with today's prices on things. But
My grandmother used to eat those. She used to smoke menthol cigarettes and eat Luden's cough drops all the time.
I guess after smoking her cigarettes, even though they were menthol, maybe she just wanted to have like wild cherry, fresh wild cherry breath after that.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I just, like I said before, I never had the urge to smoke cigarettes. And mom said, well, be glad you didn't, because she always wanted to smoke. And she was smoking when she was in high school, but that was back in the days when they didn't have a smoking area. And you really weren't supposed to be smoking in the school, but she'd go in the bathroom, hide out in the bathroom, smoke, take some drags off of a cigarette. And I said, Mom. But, anyways, and she still smokes. My dad quit years and years ago, but she still smokes. So, anyway, to get to, do you want to do the Thanksgiving review now, TJ, or do you want to wait till after we cover the episodes?
Um, I'm easy.
Okay. Well, why don't we let you go ahead and do your spoiler free review of it? Because I'm kind of curious to hear what you say about it.
By the way, I got one question. Why is Tom Hanks with the Crypt Keeper? His first episode is the first episode of season 4.
I don't know. I just like the
Okay,
picture.
I just wanted to review. I was like, did I miss an episode in season 3? Because I was like, and then I looked and I was like, oh, okay.
No, I was just looking at Crypt Keeper pictures, and this one came out. I was like, "Yeah, I know we're not covering the ones where he was this time that he was in."
Right.
Um,
Okay, yeah.
but I thought I would just put it on there just because I like the picture.
Good. It's not me then. All right. By the way, the quality of the Freight Rag shirts, I don't know.
I know I had a thread I had to pull off of this one earlier.
This is a
And I
big
just
ass like big ass
and
thread.
then and you got to be careful because sometimes it just keep raveling.
Yeah, I'm like $30 shirts in there. They should be inspected before they leave the warehouse. But
Yeah.
yeah.
What happened to those little stickers that inspected by number 21 or whatever?
All those women are dead. They were like 100 years old, and then they retired or they died. Yeah. All right. So, well, do you have any questions about Thanksgiving? Any spoiler-free questions you want to ask?
I just want to know if it's good. Is it going to be
I
worth my
liked it.
time? Okay.
There was an audience. I think if you're gonna go see it, try to get an audience with it. That especially if they're horror fans. I mean, everybody in the
It's more fun that
press
way.
people and stuff like that. So
Uh,
they're usually the most vocal. And if it was a bad movie, I would have heard them talking in the background through the whole thing. So
right.
they were happy about it.
Dang, I got another thread that's cut.
So now you're looking and you're gonna see all the.
Well, there was one on one sleeve. Now there's one on the other. Jeez Louise.
So
Okay.
you're looking for them, you see them. So the audience was very receptive of the movie. I had fun. I mean, so it's sort of a '80s throwback, but it's set now,
Okay, gotcha.
and it's like a heightened. It's not it's a comedy, but it's like more of a heightened reality than a Three Stooges or slapstick comedy, serious comedy. But there's like most of the stuff that's funny comes out of the absurdity of it,
Uh,
and a lot of the absurdity comes from stuff that's like I'm like, oh, that could happen, but it's to an extra extent than what would really
right.
happen in the real life. Then again, um, so it's set in Massachusetts, where I'm from. So there were a lot of accents in there that I noticed that were. I was like, oh, okay. I,
Was it exaggerated accents,
they were
TJ?
exaggerated, but I'm like, the characters were exaggerated, but I'm like, I know people like this.
Yeah.
People are parodies in real life. So I was just like, and Patrick Dempsey, he's in it, and he does like a Maine. He's actually was from Maine. He grew up in Maine, and I just read an interview a little while ago that he his first movie with Can't Buy Me Love, he had to hide his Maine accent
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted him to sound like Midwestern or not, like a Californian type of kid. So I was like, oh, okay, because I was like, first I was laughing because I never heard him do another accent. I've always just heard his real voice or his regular voice or whatever. So when he did an accent, I was like, I was starting to scrutinize it. I was like, I don't know about that New England accent. Then I was listening, and he did all right, and then to find out that he actually was from, you know, the area, that I was like, oh, okay. Um, and then there was another character who was a very South Shore Boston type of accent. I was like, oh, she's really good. And then I found out that she's actually from the actress who played her was actually from the South Shore of um, Massachusetts, which was like it's set in Plymouth. So she's like South Shore is like Plymouth area. Um, I know I'm explaining it to people who don't live here. You don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but anyway, yeah, there was a lot of gore. Like I said,
Yeah.
there was a lot of funny moments. I think this is like Eli Roth's first like slasher, like straight slasher movie.
Right.
It's not like Hostel where it's I heard somebody call it his torture porn, and it wasn't like Cabin Fever. And like I said, it's a very it reminded it was very Canadian looking, very 80s Canadian slasher movie, and then so there was this. People were leaving the theater at the end, and I was sitting there because I was waiting. There's a post credit sequence, so if you're going to see the movie, stay to the after the
Stay
credits.
for that. Okay, I'll make Steve stay so we
Yeah.
can see that.
And so this girl's walking out, and she's like, "Yeah, that school looked like the place where I took my SATs." And as I was right before she said that, I saw the it said where it was filmed, and it said filmed in Canada, like right after she said her comment, and I was like, and I was thinking, yeah, this was probably filmed in Canada, and then I saw the thing, and I was like, oh, and then she goes,
Mhm.
oh shit, I guess I didn't see this. I was like, yeah, I don't, unless you went to school in Canada, I do not think you went to
Right.
school, so, which I thought was funny. But yeah, so I liked it. I had fun watching it. Um, I didn't go in with big expectations. I was like, okay, it's a slasher movie. It's Eli Roth.
Right.
It's been 16 years since that trailer came out with Grindhouse, so
Yeah.
um, I will say, because people are gonna go, oh, people who know the first the fake trailer are gonna be looking for all those scenes, and I will say,
Mhm.
some of those are in it, but not all of them are in it.
Okay.
So if you're gonna go in there going, well, if I don't see every scene from the fake trailer, I'm not gonna look at the movie. Fuck you and don't watch it if you're
You're
gonna do
right.
that.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that. I wasn't expecting that from the beginning because of how long mainly it's been since that fake trailer came out. And you know, I'm not I didn't have high, I'm not expecting it to be like even the Citizen Kane of slasher movies. I was just wanting to go in there and have a good time, and the way you're talking about it, I think I will.
I mean, I don't. Some people are different, but I think you'll like it. I don't know about Uncle Bill and CK. I don't know because they just hate Eli Roth. I think they're gonna already, even if they say, "Oh, I'm gonna go into it with an open mind." I don't
They're
think.
gonna have their mind made up before
I,
they go.
you know, I don't think they're gonna because they already did rankings for the Eli Roth movies with Garrett, and I don't even think they thought that the movie was going to be any good, so I think they're already going to be going into it.
Mm.
But then I mentioned it on Garrett had a stream last night. And I mentioned it that I had seen it and what I thought about it. He's like, all right, it sounds like it might be good, and I'll give it a chance. So like I think he'll be more open to give it a better chance than they will. But
No, I can be stubborn about some things, but like I said about Eli Roth more recently, ever since I saw him on Joe Bob's show, and I think that was the first time I really saw how much of a horror fan Eli Roth was and is. And I think that just gave me a better appreciation. It gave me a better understanding of him. I still don't like the Hostel movies. I hate them, and I won't go back and watch them again. But I will say that Cabin Fever, when I watched it, I enjoyed it. And that's why I watched the Hostel, well, at least the first Hostel movie. And then I was like, okay, if this is what he's going to do, I'm not going to watch these. And I saw part of Green Inferno, and I didn't care for that.
yeah,
But this just looked like something that might be right up my alley. So I am going to give it a try here and see. And you've kind of alleviated any like little fears I might have had, that because Steve was like, when I told him I was going to buy the Thanksgiving shirt from Fright Rags, he was like, well, what if you hate the movie, Dana?
that's what a friend of mine said. But I didn't tell him I was buying a shirt. I was just like, oh, they have shirts, and he started going, why would people buy shirts for a movie that's not even out yet? And
Because we want to have something to wear to the movie.
I
The-
wore my other thing, my original Thanksgiving shirt. It's got the turkey with the knife in
Steve,
it. It says
Steve's
Thanksgiving.
got that one. And
Um,
here's the
I
weird,
will say there, because I said it was a throwback to 80s slasher Canadian movies.
right.
You probably I didn't notice until I read the credits, so maybe don't read the credits, but there is a familiar Canadian horror actor person, whether it's a female or a male, I won't tell you, but um,
Okay. I'll be on the
if you
lookout
notice
for
them,
that.
I'll give you extra credit. But until I read the credits and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was them. Oh, okay.
I'll keep an eye out while I'm watching it and see if
I
I.
figured out the killer at the opening scene. I knew who the killer was.
Well, I'll see if I can. Sometimes I can,
Yeah.
and I attribute it to watching so many of these types of movies. I think once you've seen so many of them, it gets in your head, and you're like, usually I'll narrow it down. I'll say if it's not this person, then it's got to be that person. And usually about 8 or 9 times out of 10, I'm right nowadays. But I didn't used to be able to do that when I first started watching these
I
movies.
don't even try anymore. I'm just like I'm totally oblivious to who the killer is. So when I
Uh,
figured it out so early, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, you still don't get proven until you actually see who it is at near the part of the movie when it's revealed who the killer is.
mm,
Um, but I was watching it thinking, okay, I think I know who the killer is, so I'm gonna watch it and pay attention to the person I think the killer is, and then see how that fits with what's going on and then what the reveal is. And I think it works pretty well. But then again, like I said, it's a slasher movie throwback, so it's not a well I can't think of the word like a carefully written who done it like Agatha Christie type of novel.
yeah, or not even like a Jallo film,
No, there's a
because
lot of
sometimes a
flaws.
Jallo
There's a lot
film,
of flaws in the logic, but the fact that it's a heightened sense of reality, you forgive that stuff, and the slasher killer does the usual slasher killer. They're superhuman, and
hmm
they could be in two places at the same time. That kind of stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're expecting that. So if people complain about that, they're a little bit too highfalutin.
yeah, they shouldn't be in that movie,
Yeah, if
watching
you
that
watch
movie
it
anyway.
elevated, go watch the Babadook 80 times. I think that's more your speed.
The Babadook, I still hate that kid in it. I still want to
Oh yeah,
strangle
he's
that
so
kid.
annoying. But I mean, he's
But
supposed to.
but the movie, I watched it a second time and I liked it a lot better than the first time. But you were talking about that original Thanksgiving shirt. Steve has that one. But what I was going to say is the funny thing about him is, like, I could understand if we had the exact same damn shirt. Maybe not both of us wearing our shirts at the same time. But that, to me, that one is as different as night and day to the shirts that Fright Rags has out
Yeah.
now. And so I told Steve, I said, well, when we go to the movies, I'll wear my new shirt and you can wear your old Thanksgiving shirt. He said, no, that'll be weird. I said, why would that be weird? They're two different shirts with two different sets of artwork on
You
there.
have to wear the same shirt as your husband. That's wrong.
But he's just odd about that stuff. But cool.
That you can't see because it's so blurry, but that's me. There was a cutout that you put your head through. So
Oh, okay. Well, I can see your hair, TJ.
yeah, the green. Yeah, yeah.
I hope
Go
they
look
have
at
one of.
Instagram and you can see my photo of me or my Twitter. You can see that picture.
Okay. Let's check that out.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, so if you see the movie and you like it enough that you want to talk about it, let me know. Maybe we can do a stream about the movie, and maybe you can see if anybody else wants to be on it. That maybe either. I mean, you can find somebody who hated the movie and see what we can just argue with them for 20 minutes or a half hour or whatever.
right. Me and TJ be like, oh, we like that movie. And somebody else will be like, "Mm." I'm curious to see what Steve thinks of it when we watch it because normally he likes Eli Roth movies. He
Yeah.
even liked the Hostel movies, and I didn't. So I'm just curious to see. But
And I think CK and Uncle Bill said they were going to do they're doing like a was it on the road review. So I mean,
I think I'm gonna. I mean, I'll be happy to do something with you too, TJ, and whoever else wants to be on here with us. But I think I'm gonna revive my Highway to Hell um, thing and have me and Steve talk about it before and after. We're not calling it an on the road because I'm not gonna try to copy CK and Uncle Bill. Um, and I wouldn't want to anyway. And this is from way back when I started Seductive Poison, and my cousin Heather was going to be on it with me, and then that fell through. And then me and Jenny did the shows for a while. Which she still wants to make a return to it, but she's just trying to work out some time. We've been talking back and forth. But me and Heather did one episode of Highway to Hell where we went
yeah.
to see Piranha 3D,
Oh, okay.
and we had a lot of fun doing that. So the only thing is, I can't use Highway to Hell, ACDC's Highway to
No,
Hell
you
music. There's no way. I'll have to come up with some royalty free or copyright free music and put on there, but I'm sure I can find something that I can use. But
were the were the Deadbit Boys the first ones to ever do sort of an on the road YouTube
I
type of?
mean, they were the first ones that I ever knew to do it. Maybe some other people like did them, but theirs was always so fun. When I first started watching theirs, I was like, this is really cool, and they're entertaining and all that. Sometimes people aren't. I mean, I'm not going to point fingers or anything, but I have seen some things where it's just dry as toast. It's that dry. But and they don't like sometimes it's just one person going by themselves. And I think it works. I mean, I'm not saying one person couldn't do it, but I think it works better and is more entertaining if you got two people. That way you can play off of each other
Yeah.
um, doing that. So I guess it'll be me and Steve doing this Highway to Hell. And then after I record it all, I'll have to put it all together and put it with the music and the titles and all that good stuff.
Cool.
So y'all be on the lookout for that as well. As soon
Yep.
as
So
I
that
can
was
get.
my opinion on my spoiler-free opinion on the.
Well, see, you do a really good job of that, TJ. Some people would tell every freaking thing from the
Yeah, I was trying
movie.
to word myself so because I'm saying like whoever the killer is, I'm not being very specific about. giving away if it's a guy or it's a girl or it's 20 people or I do appreciate that they didn't this is I don't know if this I don't think this is a spoiler. They're not doing the meta crap. I'm like
Oh, I'm relieved. I'm
yeah,
relieved they're not
I'm
doing
sick of
that.
seeing meta slasher movies. I'm sick of I think this is better than I don't know, maybe it's better than Scream 6. I think it's better than Scream 6. Or Scream 7. I can't remember. I don't even remember the two.
Yeah, I'm starting to get confused now because it's just there's too many of them now. It's
Although I did figure out the killer in the last Scream movie, like really.
mm,
I mean, everybody has seen that movie by now, right? I would think.
I think so. Everybody that's gonna see it,
So
I
okay,
think.
so if you haven't seen Scream 7, this comment's going to be a spoiler. So go away for a couple of minutes and block your ears. So
Yeah.
there's the scene in the police station where he's talking, where the cop is talking to Sam and the sister and everything like that. And then they leave, and immediately after, they're in their apartment, and on the news, we heard that Sam is implicated in the murders. And I'm like, the killer is definitely somebody in the police station. And I was
Hmm.
like, huh. And then it didn't take me long after that to go, it's the detective dude. It's him.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's pretty. I think that's pretty early in the movie.
I don't know if I came to the conclusion as quickly as you did, TJ, but
Right.
I knew there was something not quite right about that guy.
I didn't know about the family thing, but I know he was at least one of the killers. Uh,
Mm.
but when the reveal happened, and they're like, he's like, I switched my daughter's body. I'm like, that's bullshit. You'd have to hire everybody who was on the scene and give them, pay them off. You would have had to have a body already.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got it at the morgue. Did he dig it up at the cemetery? And someone would have had to have examined it, and they would have known it wasn't. I mean, it's like so many. That whole just like throwaway line. There's so many discrepancies with that whole idea. It was so stupid. I'm like, that's the lamest. Anyway, I'm done talking about it. All right, I'm
Oh,
done.
that's okay, TJ. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with these episodes. And TJ, did you want to continue the comparisons between the comics and the actual televised episode?
Yeah, I'll throw a little stuff here. Throw a little in
Okay.
there. Sure.
And I talked to TJ about this. It was kind of last minute, but I discovered that there were only 8 episodes
Yeah,
left of the 3rd season, and so I thought I'm just gonna ask TJ if he wants to go ahead and cover all 8 of them, or do we wanna wait? And so I think you finished up the last 2, right?
I did. By the
Okay.
way, the next season is only 14 episodes, so we can do 7 and 7 if you want.
Yeah, that will work.
Okay.
It works for me. So, we'll go ahead and get started with the first episode of this. Well, actually, it's the 7th episode, but whatever. The first episode we're talking
There's
about.
been way too many Scream movies, so I don't 6, 7. I don't know anymore.
I don't know anymore either. So,
Anyway, sorry I interrupted you.
oh no, no problem. So this is the reluctant vampire with. We're kind of continuing the streak of more well-known actors showing up
Yes,
in these episodes because Malcolm McDowell,
Malcolm McDowell.
George Wendt, Michael Berryman's in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Gleason is also in this episode. Um, and I'm not familiar with the name Elliot Silverstein, but he's the one that directed it. Do you know anything about Elliot Silverstein or Silverstein or however?
He directed The Car, one of my
Oh, okay.
major. Um, I'd say if you're gonna have a double feature, Duel in The Car would be like a great.
Yes.
The Car, I think I had said one of some stream. I don't know how The Car came up, but it's like a version of Death Proof, because basically the car, it's a slasher movie where the car is the weapon, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a mixture of Duel and um, Eli Roth and Eli Roth. Quentin
We've
Tarantino.
got Eli Roth on the brain here because we.
So he's in that movie. He's in the
Yeah.
oh,
Yes, he is.
he's
Uh,
also in Piranha 3D. He gets killed in the the boating, the big
is
big
he the?
mess.
Is he the one? I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I watched it. Was he the one that his penis was floating in the water or whatever
That was
after?
Jerry O'Connell.
Oh, Jerry O'Connell got okay, but I think I
Jerry
disliked
O'Connell's an
Eli.
asshole character. He's like he gets the girl's head stuck in the
Yes, and
motor, and he's like, "Let me get out of here," kind of, and then he gets like
yeah, I remember now.
ripped apart. Yeah,
But he gets killed in it, doesn't he?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, because me and my cousin Heather, we were like, yeah, because I really had a lot of hate for Eli Roth at that time, and I was like, we can't wait to see him get it. Um, so
Well,
anyway,
yeah, he
this is
directed the car. He directs a couple more episodes in the series.
in this.
He did
Okay,
some TV here and there, and yeah, but yeah, the biggest thing he did was the car, which I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Oh, I think he directed a few episodes of the original Twilight Zone. Some episodes, The
Oh,
Obsolete
cool.
Man, which
Uh-huh.
that's the one where I think it's Burgess Meredith, and he's sort of like there's like a tribunal going on, and they say you're supposed to die because you're not contributing to our society, that kind of thing. He also directed the Trade-ins. That's the one where the people want to be, beautiful, so they
Oh
become,
yeah.
mannequins, living robot type. He directed that and a couple other episodes. So yeah, I think he probably died not too long after that. Oh, he's from Boston.
Oh, cool.
That's
That's
cool.
really
Anyway,
good.
yeah. So
So I'll let TJ go ahead and start talking about the reluctant vampire, and I'm going to get more caffeine, and I'll be right back.
okay. So it's about so Malcolm McDowell plays Donald Longtooth. He's a vampire. Perfect name. Um, and he works at a blood bank. There you go. So you obviously can tell this is a very serious drama, which it's not at all. Um, so he works for George Wendt, sort of like the runs the blood bank. He's sort of an asshole. I was like, sorry, I don't want. I'm sorry. I'm saying bad words. He's a jerky boss. Um, doesn't like Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell's like he works like the night shift. I think he's a guard. I think, and he's called the reluctant vampire because he doesn't want to kill people for blood. So that's why he works at the blood bank so he can sort of steal the blood. But the blood hasn't been replenished, so people kind of figure out that somebody has been stealing blood. And then we have a side character. Michael Berryman plays a Van Helsing character. His name is Van Helsing, obviously.
Yeah.
It's pretty on. It's like they tell you exactly what it is. Um, Meanwhile, there's this Longtooth works with Sally, who's this kind of ditzy blonde who really likes him, and he likes her, kind of thing. So yeah, Van Helsing's looking for the vampire. And we find out George Wendt figures kind of out that what's going on with Longtooth. Yeah, and he so eventually Van Helsing kind of corners Longtooth, finds out where he is, and is gonna stake him. So he goes to the coffin, opens up the coffin, and it's George Wendt. And he thinks George Wendt is the vampire because everything sort of leads to him being a lot of other stuff happens. I'm just kind of cutting to the chase. That's the big twist is George Wendt gets killed, and they think he's the vampire. And Sally and Longtooth go off, and they sort of have she knows he's a vampire, and she loves him too. And he bites her, makes her a vampire, and that's kind of the ending to the episode. So yeah, I loved it. It was a fun episode. Good I like the comedy and
Yeah, there are a
the
few
twist at
more
the end.
comedic elements in this episode. And excuse me, I think Malcolm McDowell made a great kind of a goofy vampire in here. You know, like the scenes where he's dancing around the blood bank, and then when he figures out that he can replenish the blood supply at the blood bank by taking it from criminals, but he asks them things like, "You haven't." You haven't been exposed to any like bloodborne diseases, and you haven't
He
had,
says that to Sally at the end, like you don't have
yeah,
any,
yeah,
you didn't have
haven't
dental
had
work
dental work.
recently.
But this was one of, Malcolm McDowell can play likable characters, and I think uh, Mr. Longtooth was a likable character, but he can also play really sleazy, bad, evil characters. If you've seen A Clockwork Orange, you
Mhm.
can see just how bad he can get in a film.
The only thing
Or
bad about him is his wig. I think it's a wig.
I believe it is.
In this episode, it's very obvious that yeah.
Uh, hey, Coco. Coco says, "Hey, dudes, what season are yuns on?" We're on the third season. Coco, we're covering the last 8 episodes. Um, but yeah, I like this episode. Again, I have yet to find one that I don't like.
Hmm.
When we get to the last episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious
Yeah, that
subject matter.
yep, it is
That was a
serious.
comic. It was done in the comics. They did a lot of war kind of stuff.
Hmm. But I was listening as TJ was talking about, how all the things pointed to it being George Went's character, who you knew he was going to get his comeuppance because he was such an asshole. um, but there was one part earlier in the episode where Paul Gleason, the cop, says, "So we're looking for like a 300-pound or something vampire."
Yeah,
And so I was thinking of that towards the end of the episode when they thought that George Wendt was the vampire because they opened up the coffin, he's in there, and all that. So um, I guess they did kind of give you tiny little clues of how it was going to end up. But if
yeah,
you've seen any number of these Tales from the Crypt episodes, you can kind of guess that the really bad people in the episode are usually going to get their comeuppance. Usually,
Well, there's
usually
one
that's how it
episode in this that I'm like, the person, I don't know, they really deserved it. When we get to it, I'll bring it up. But
works. Okay.
I was like, do they really deserve it as bad as yeah, anyway? Um,
So I'll let TJ talk about the comparison between the comic and the actual televised episode.
um, yeah. Think. So in the comic, he's not Longtooth. He's Mister Drink, which is
Uh,
it's just not as clever, I don't think, but
yeah, I like
it
Longtooth
stands because he
better.
drinks blood. It's Mister Drink. Um, by the way, this is the Vault of Horror number 20. This is where this episode came from. Um, yeah, it's not. I think it kind of follows the original comic kind of pretty well. I think. Um, I don't remember if Sally like always knew. I think she always knew he was a vampire. I can't remember if that's just in one of the versions. Or now I can't remember. Now my brain's all like um, melded together, like melted chocolate that you left in your pocket too long. Um, yeah. Not a lot of the differences come to my mind really. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think it was a lot of it was names. Like I think George Wendt was just Mister. It wasn't Crosswhite. It was something else. Like, but yeah. So yeah.
Oh, good. So sorry. Don't
Yeah.
mean to be yawning during this. So I guess we'll move on to the next episode, which has my man Tim Roth in it, looking very sexy in my opinion. I love Tim Roth. I can't help it. I know he's older now, but this was when he was in his prime, guys and gals. So I love.
It's the accent, isn't it? You love the accent.
I like the accent, but I like his look too. I liked how he looked on Reservoir Dogs too. Um, I
Oh,
thought he was hot on there too. But anyway, TJ doesn't want to hear how I think Tim Roth is hot, but I do like Tim Roth, and I like him as an actor really well too.
what about
So
Will Atherton? Do you like? Is he attractive? Do you think he's hot?
who's that?
He's the what the hell does he? He's the guy who buys the paintings.
Oh, William Atherton.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
from he's the asshole in Ghostbusters. The little
Yep,
blonde
and
cat.
he's also in the Twilight Zone from or not Twilight Zone. I don't is it Twilight Zone or Tales from the Dark Side? Shoot. It I think it's Twilight Zone from the 80s. It's the Christmas episode where he becomes Santa, not William Atherton, but the other character becomes Santa Claus
Hmm.
at the end of it. But William Atherton plays a kind of he starts out like an asshole and then he ends up a better person towards the end. Um, but I like William Atherton, but I don't think he's hot. I think Tim Ross is hot.
I'm sorry, he didn't have a mustache in the Ghostbusters. What the fuck? I don't know what I'm thinking about. He's
No,
the guy that gets all the. He gets the big marsh. He's got the big drenched in marshmallows at the end of the
right.
He's also in the second Die Hard. I think he's like, is he like the boss or something? I can't remember what he did. He's in that.
But this is I didn't tell anybody the title. We just been talking about who's in
Yeah,
him, but
yeah.
it's Easel Kill Ya.
He's
Uh,
a painter, easel, haha.
yes, get it? Everybody got that?
There's also an episode next season called "This'll Kill Ya." So I'm like,
Yes, there is.
they were they were hard up trying to. I guess after I don't know how many comic books they came up with that they kind of were skimping on the creative title.
The creative titles. Um, so uh, I'm
Directed by
gonna
John Harrison of who
yes.
was first a musician slash composer slash director slash actor slash. There's a lot of
He's been a
slashes.
lot of things. And so I'm going to let TJ get started talking about this episode.
So this was from Vault of Horror 31. Um, it's about this artist who's sort of down on his luck. He's basically broke. Um, but for some reason he's not worried about losing his apartment, which I'm watching it and I'm like,
Oh,
his
yeah, I
landlord,
thought that was odd too. Yeah.
he's like, he has no money for anything, but he has no issues with paying his rent. So I'm like, and it's like, it's brought up, rent is brought up at a certain point, and I'm like, it's not like he owns it, it's not like a condo he owns, it's like an apartment that he owns. It's like a loft, that you'd see an artist in.
Hmm.
Um, he has one of those crazy lady.
Because we see other characters in some of these other episodes lose their apartment. John Lovitz lost his apartment. There's going to be somebody in another episode that we're going to talk about tonight that gets evicted. I mean,
His landlord is played by Nancy Fish. If you've seen Exorcist 3, she's that kind of. Sometimes she's nice, sometimes she's bitchy nurse.
yeah,
George C. Scott out. He's like, get out of here,
you're right.
and she's in The Mask, and she's in a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of character actors in this. Anyway, so he's in this. So yeah, his his gallery, doesn't she fire him or something like that? The gallery owner, or she tells him that she's like says stuff like, because he's a recovering alcoholic, so she's like, You were better when you were drinking.
When you were drinking, he's like, "Gee, thanks,"
Yeah, did she fire him? Something like that. Doesn't she sort of say that?
Well, I think she doesn't care for his paintings, but she says that if he needs the money and he wants to, he can help her with the show she's putting on.
Yeah, but she's not like a champion of his artwork. Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we meet. So we see him in rehab. He one of the female rehab woman. What was her name?
Oh gosh, what was her
Sharon.
name? Yeah.
Um, who I don't. She didn't seem familiar to me. Roya Magnet. I don't know.
She looks slightly familiar, but her name doesn't ring a bell at all
She
with
passed
me.
away in 2009. Ooh.
Did she really?
Yeah, that's pretty. Born in '62. That's not that old.
No.
Anyway, so they sort of start. Even though I think they say in rehab you shouldn't get into a relationship or whatever, especially like in a group,
Mhm.
that you shouldn't get in a relationship with somebody in your group. But um, they sort of strike up a relationship. Meanwhile, he's trying to get some inspiration for his work. He just can't seem to find anything. Um, and he accidentally kills his neighbor who's playing his heavy metal music way too loud. Falls
Mhm.
off the fire escape. And then he sort of gets the idea from the dead body laying there that he'll use that for his artwork. Now, it's an accident, but I pretty much I don't think he reports it that this guy actually he actually
No, he
killed him.
just goes down there and takes Polaroids that he can
And
use
then he thinks,
to paint from.
so he comes across William Atherton plays this Malcolm Mayflower who he's into morbid photos and stuff like that. So I think Tim Roth's character reads it in an ad or something like that this guy's looking for. Either that or that's in the comic book. I can't remember now. See, like I said, everything's melding together right now. Do you remember if that's in the? Does he? I know he finds the guy somehow to go to him,
Oh gosh, where did
or
he?
maybe he sees the artwork of the dead guy and he finds out and then calls him. Now I can't remember if how it went.
Gosh, I just watched that. Now, why can't I remember?
Um, huh. I'm gonna cheat and look at the video. Let's see. You all just hold on while I scan the video and see.
What? I didn't think I would forget because, like I said, I watched most of the episodes last night.
Yeah. So the guy dies, and then it's funny though when the guy falls off the thing. He's about to stop
Yeah.
and help him, but then he realizes, no, I want to use this artwork. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how this video is not telling me how I can't. I don't know. Watch the episode. You'll find out how he finds it. Anyway,
Yeah. After you listen to us talk about it, go watch the episode and.
yeah. So he finds Malcolm Mayweather likes his artwork, and he says, he shows him the photos that he's bought, and I think that's it. He bought these photos at an auction because they were kind of these gross reality,
Mhm.
um, horrible photos. I think that's it. I think it's an auction, and he finds out, and he's like, "Oh, I want to show my artwork to this guy." Anyway, so yeah, he pays him for the artwork, and he's like, "Oh, can you show me more like this?" Um, so he starts killing people instead of waiting for an accident to happen. So he actually kills people, and he uses sometimes he uses their blood in the artwork, which is
Yeah.
interesting because that's an H.G. Lewis, Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. I think it's called. I wrote it down. It's better when I write things down. It's called "Color Me Blood Red," where an artist
Oh,
uses
right.
blood to get the right red in his paintings, and that reminded me of this episode. It also reminds me of the Roger Corman movie um, with Dick. What's his face? The guy who played Mr. Futterman in Gremlins.
Um,
What the hell's his name?
Dick Miller?
Dick Miller. It sort of reminded me of that because Dick Miller was an artist who was like he killed people and he used their bodies in his art. So I think that's kind of reminded me of those two things while I was watching this. But then again, like I said, Tales from the Crypt was um, Vault of Horror was written in like the 50s, so that was probably before those movies. But still, kind of reminded me of those, just to kind of get a connection to what they reminded me of. So anyway, yeah, he kills the landlady first. The guy ended up dying. She's like, oh, I gotta lug all this stuff downstairs. She goes, I could break my neck carrying all this stuff down. And then Tim Roth turns around and goes, hey, do you need any help?
Yeah, he helps her all right.
And it's half creepy, half like, oh, he seems like he wants to help her, but no, he wants to anyway. And so he kills her, and he starts using people's bodies to help him with his artwork and whatever. Meanwhile, he has a nice sex scene with Sharon. We see her breasts, so if you want some nudity, you get it from this episode. Anyway, they're making love, and he sort of sees Mayflower kind of goading him to say, because he decides at a certain point that, all right, I'm going to stop killing people.
Right.
I'm going to stop using that in my artwork. But he sort of sees Mayflower as another addiction, where Mayflower is sort of like a pusher now. But this is more in his mind. I mean, yeah, Mayflower is like saying, I want more stuff. You need, and I'll pay you for it. But it's like, he's just a weird guy who wants these paintings and artwork and stuff like that. It's more in Tim Roth's mind that this guy is pushing him to do it. But anyway, while they're making love, he sees Mayflower like goading him to get back into killing and doing work and stuff like that. And he's about to use the alarm clock to smash him in the face, and then she's like, "Hey, it's me," and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't." But then again, she should have left.
Yeah, I don't know what he
started like contemplating, like,
yeah.
do I stay? Do I go? I'm like,
He asked her to stay, but if some guy tried to clock me with his alarm clock, I think I'd be getting out there.
He tried to clock me with his clock. Okay. Yeah, so he decides, no, I'm going to go straight. So meanwhile, she's alone in his apartment, and she finds all the photos of the dead people that he was making his artwork from. And he comes back, and she's like horrified, and she picks up a knife, and he's like, no, let me explain. And she's like, no, I'm getting the hell out of here because you're in a mental case. She runs into traffic, gets hit by a car. She's now in critical condition in the hospital. Tim Roth needs money, so he decides to do one last painting. He kills this random guy who's walking down the street, uses his, basically just makes a blood and guts on cardboard piece of art.
But William Atherton loves it, though.
Yeah, he gives him $100,000 for it, which is the money he needs to for Sharon to get the operation. He goes to the doctor. Hey, I got the money. And the guy goes, oh, I'm sorry. We won't be able to do the operation because the only person who was qualified to do the operation was recently murdered. And it basically describes how Tim Roth killed the guy. So basically, he killed the only person who could save Sharon. Sharon dies. And then as he's watching Sharon, die or whatever, a cop comes up to him with a paintbrush with some red on it, and he's like, "So you're an artist, huh?" And it ends with the blinds closing, so you're figuring, okay, the cops know he's the killer.
Right.
She's gonna die, and it's not a happy ending. So the first one had a sort of like the couple fall in love and they live happily ever after. And this one, it's the total opposite. Everybody.
No, this one's I liked the episode, but it was a total downbeat ending because it's like, oh man, what an ironic twist that, the person he killed is the the only person that could save this woman's life that he cares about. I think Sharon was the only person he ever really cared about. He didn't care about these other people. But not a bad little episode. It's just that I'm like TJ. I think I would have maybe liked it a little better if it had had a little more upbeat ending instead of that. Just really, the irony really came out in this one.
Yeah, the
Um,
acting was good. I like the whole point of it. It's about addiction. It's not just a horror story. It's about something,
right.
which I think upped the level to the story a little bit. Um, yeah.
So, you got any comparisons between the televised version, the comic
The biggest
version?
difference is the ending where he's gonna meet Sharon. I forget what her name is. It might or might not be the same name, but he's gonna meet her, and she's supposed to meet him at his apartment or something like that, but she doesn't show up. And then he finds out that she was in a car. She was in a car accident. That she was hit by a car. So it's a
Uh,
different setup to the ending where it's not that she finds out what he did. She just it's an accident that happens. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference. Um,
but there's no thing where he inadvertently kills the person that could save
no,
her.
that's still there. That's still the
It's
twist.
still there.
That's still
Okay.
the twist. The twist is that so he finds out that she was in an accident. She's in critical condition.
Hmm.
He's like, okay, I need the money to um, for the guy, he'll give me the money so I can get the operation. Um, it's different though. It's an older man who's got this kind of a creepier older man. He's also doesn't give him the money for the operation. He steals the guy's money and then takes him to the
Uh,
hospital. Um, and then so he basically kills the guy for nothing because he kills a guy. He doesn't get the money,
hmm.
and Sharon ends up dying. But there's also not the twist about him getting arrested. That is not in the story. That's not.
Not in there.
Also, it's a little bit different. Um, that he actually it starts with him looking for people to kill, basically, to make his art. So there's
Uh,
a bunch of differences. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's like the biggest difference, I think. There's a little bit of motivational difference and that kind of thing. But
okay. Well, I think this was another one that both TJ and I liked.
yeah.
Just Just I wish it had a little less of a downbeat ending, but you can't win them all, can you? Um,
Mhm.
so if we move on to the next episode, Undertaking Power, um, this okay. First of all, I gotta ask TJ because he would probably know this if
By the way,
anybody
it
ever
stars Academy Award winner Ki Kwan.
So he's listed as Jonathan Kwan here,
Yeah,
and so I wonder why they would have like altered his name. Would
they did
there?
that back in the day. They didn't want him to be too. It's a racism thing. They didn't want him to be too ethnic, so they gave him an American.
Ah,
And a lot of actors did that. Like they changed their names because they
but I
wanted to
think
sound a little.
when he was in the Goonies, though, he had his name at birth that he was given
Yeah,
at birth.
I don't know.
I thought he did, but anyway,
I don't know why.
uh,
That makes or maybe they weren't being maybe it was being but that does happen with people change their names because they sounded too ethnic and they Hollywood wasn't going for it.
well, I know with Martin Sheen, I guess Emilio
That's,
didn't
that's
get
what
his
his
son Emilio didn't care, but Martin Sheen, I mean, he changed his last name to make it less, I guess ethnic in that case.
yeah.
So yeah, they do that. But somebody else that's in this, and some people might say, "What in the heck? How that's obscure." But there's a movie that came out in like 87 or so. It was one of those low budget slasher deals. It was called Hide and Go Shriek. You ever seen that, TJ?
I have, yes.
Okay. So do you remember one of the group of kids um that looked like he was about 12 years old, but I guess he was supposed to be a high schooler or a high school graduate or something, or maybe a junior,
Yeah.
possibly. There was a guy and a girl in the group that looked a lot younger than the rest of the group. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if it was a case where this guy, his real name's Scott Foltz,
Yep.
um, if he was just one of those people that was older than he looked, because he's playing a kid on here, and this was after Hide and Go Shriek, of
He was
course.
like 30 or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, he would have had to have been, but he was playing what would you say the rest of these kids, how old they are?
13 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and also I noticed he had gained a little weight, of course, since Hide and Go Shriek and this, and the other kids kind of make fun of him too, and
Yeah, it's yeah.
some of the other kids look familiar too, but I can't place them. Do you know what any of them?
Well, there's Jason Marsden, not related to Cyclops from. But Jason Marsden, he's done a ton of stuff. He was on a lot of TV shows like was it Boy Meets World? I think he was on
Okay,
Full
yeah, that
House.
makes sense.
He was Max in the Goofy movie. He was the son in the Goofy movie.
Oh, okay.
He also does the voice of Thackeray Binks in Hocus Pocus.
Oh,
He does
interesting.
the cat and the actor who. So I guess the original actor who played the character in the when he's alive in the beginning and the end of the movie. I guess they didn't think he had a good enough voice, um,
Huh.
so they had Marsden come in and dub both of them. But feels bad. So we never heard that kid talk. I'm like, I wonder what it sounds like in real.
Right.
Did you feel bad that people like you do a movie and they're like, sorry, we're gonna dub your voice because we just
Yeah, that would make you feel kind of shitty, I would think, if somebody did that. It's like you like how I look, but you don't like my voice, and you know, I don't
there's
know.
that terrible movie Manos the Hands of Fate, and I heard a story of so there's the little girl in it, and during the premiere she was crying because her voice was dubbed over by an
Oh,
older actor. It's an older actress. She does all the female, like I think all the same guys, the same guy and girl do most of the voices in that movie, which is kind of weird. Um,
huh.
so you got this, like Bob, you got this 30-something-year-old woman playing a 5-year-old girl, and it's like, yeah, I would cry too if my voice was
Well,
changed.
it's like Bob and poor Bob in House by the Cemetery.
Yeah,
That poor guy got dubbed over all the time. But anyway, um, I thought this was a fun little episode. I mean, it had some creepy elements in it, but it was still um, fun and enjoyable. And I liked the way the boys played off each other. It was almost like those sort of like those coming of age movies, Stand By Me and all that stuff, and the Goonies and stuff that we used to watch when we were growing. A lot of us did when we were growing up.
yeah.
Um, but there
Well,
is
you could be an actor from the Goonies to be in the movie.
yes, and we do have that, and there is one. sad part in it. But I'm gonna let TJ
Yeah.
go ahead and start talking
Well,
about
ask me
some.
why he won an Oscar. He's pretty good in that scene, the kid. Oh, by
Yes,
the way,
yes.
the other kid, Aaron Eisenberg, you might know him from House 3, aka the horror show. He was
Oh
the son in
yeah.
that. He's
Hmm.
also he's also in Amityville 4, which is the TV movie
Okay,
with Patty Duke.
he's the weird looking kid on there, isn't he?
He's the brother on the yeah. He played a lot of yeah. A lot of these kids, they were playing kids, but they were in their 20s and 30s. It's
Yeah.
very Grease, um, or yeah, or Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, yeah. So and it's done sort of like in a found footage style.
Mhm.
So it starts with these kids kind of hanging around. Like it's very Goonies, very you know um, 80s kid coming of age type of Stand By Me kind of
Yeah.
situation going on. I think it's more Goonies because it's more lighthearted. Maybe it sort of is lighthearted. So these kids are sort of hanging around. They're big movie fans, so they come out of a movie theater. Also, if you notice in the movie theater scene, there's like a bunch of posters of the producers. There's like Die Hard and
Yeah.
Aliens and stuff like that. So there's all this kind of weird, references to the people involved with the making of the thing. So these three of the kids are sort of walking down the street, this sort of like alleyway, and somebody's watching them through like a video camera type of situation. Um, and we find out it's their friend Josh, played by Ki Kwan,
Mhm.
and he's sort of like the rich kid who has all the fancy video equipment and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, instead of doing these kind of crappy videos where you're scaring us and making these kind of like um, why don't we do an actual like horror movie? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'm all for it. So they go to the local uh, mortician dude, who's this kind of creepy guy, played by John Glover, who like from Gremlins 2, he plays sort of the weird doctor guy. Um, he's in the Mouth of Madness. What was that thing he was in? I'm not gonna look it up. Was he in like Secret of My one of those 80? Oh no. The one with Val Kilmer. What's that movie?
Oh shoot.
Weird, not Weird Science. What's that
No.
movie?
I think Steve has it. I think he got a new copy of it.
It's
Ah, what was it?
brain.
That's gonna bother me if we don't figure that out. Let's see.
He was in Scrooged. I know that. I can't remember now. Maybe no. Okay, I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. No, it's I can't remember now. All right, never mind. Oh no, it's the guy from the other episode. The guy from the last episode.
Oh, okay.
He was in that movie. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. Never mind. I was close. Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
He was in this guy was in Batman and Robin from 1997.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. All right. So yeah. So they decide to spy on him and maybe use some footage from. So he's embalming this woman, and he's sort of talking to her. And he's like, it's a weird, uh, friggin' scene. Um, I think it's like the library. It's like the local librarian or something like that. So the kids are kind of freaked out by what's going on. Um, so we find out that he's been sort of cutting corners and on the embalming and stuff and taking the money. And we find out he's sort of in cahoots with the local uh, what is he? Pharmacist, local pharmacist guy.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of doing some illegal stuff. He's also they're both um, but the mortician's also screwing over the other guy. So he's fudging the books, but he's also fudging what he's taking in from the book. So he's like, um, yeah. So the kids um, find out that find this out, and we also find out that the mortician is also killing people,
Mm-hmm.
and we find out that he's killed um, Kwan's father, who was I forget what the father. He's like a local. He's what does he do for a living? I can't remember what it. Do you remember what he did for a living? We know he's rich, but like they mentioned something about
Oh gosh, I can't remember now.
he's not a doctor. He's
No, I just
anyway. We find out the mortician has been putting poison in people's. So he's been killing the people and then bringing them into the mortuary and then cutting corners to make money off of the tragedies. And it's like this guy's a skeezy guy, and we find out that he helped the pharmacist guy kill his wife, so he has sort of blackmailing him. Um, but earlier, like I said, the kids kind of find out what's going on with this, and they try.
what was? Am I wrong? TJ wasn't the pharmacist poisoning people? Wasn't he sending out poison medicine
Yeah,
to
right. That's right.
people?
I'm sorry. The pharmacist has been doing that. That's right. I said the mortician guy. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
They've been kind of working together, but they were kind of
Yeah, that's
the
why I was
mortician
mixing
was
up
screwing the pharmacist
yeah,
out
they
of
each had
money.
their thing. He was fudging the books on the cost of taking care of the bodies and everything like that, and then the other guy was using the poisoning their medication and stuff like that. Okay, that was it.
Hmm.
Thank you. See, you're here to put me straight.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, am I right or am I wrong on that?
No, you're right. I'm wrong. So anyway, the kids find out that he killed the father, so they're gonna basically pit the two guys against each other. Um, so they send like they end up sending the original fudged books over to the pharmacist, and then they make um, they make the mortician guy think that the other guy is trying to kill him. Right? That's right. Okay. And
Yeah.
so the pharmacist guy confronts him. The guy ends up killing him. Um, Meanwhile, the kids are all recording this and watching everything that's going on. Um, then the mortician tries to kill the kids, and he ends up getting stabbed with that. I can't remember what it is. We knew what it was because it was used in one of the episodes of Friday the 13th, the series, whatever the thing is called that sucks out the.
Oh yeah, now I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
But it sucks all the nasty stuff out of you,
The gut
basically.
sucking tool, whatever. So he ends up getting killed. So they get their revenge, and they get away with they get away with um, with it at the end and whatever. Um, yeah. So I mean that's just it. I move things around and I got it screwed up a little bit, but yeah, that's basically.
You did a good job with it, TJ. You didn't do bad at all. I Blissful says shot back. Sorry, had to.
Yeah, there you go. It's a show back.
A shot back for your innards. Anyway, I liked this episode. I thought it was, even though some parts of it were kind of gruesome, it did, as TJ said, had that quality that those coming of age movies had from the 80s. And it kind of, as soon as I saw those kids, well, some of them weren't kids,
Yeah,
kids for real. But supposedly they were all kids. Um, as soon as I saw them and, them playing around wanting to make their own movies and doing all that stuff, it was just, it took me back.
yeah,
It almost took me back to that time period. And I think that's a big part of why I like this episode so well. And I'd forgotten about this episode. Some people might look at it and say, well, that's kind of too cutesy for Tales from the Crypt. But it had enough gruesome stuff in there that it fit the bill. It wasn't all just coming of age type of stuff. And then of course you had the kid from the Goonies. The very that scene almost made me cry. When he was crying, you
yeah,
could almost really believe that he'd had somebody close to him die. And so that part I was almost like,
I
but
did cry, but I agree with you. He was very good, and it was a very
very good at that. Very,
yeah.
very good. Um, but I'll turn it back over to TJ to talk about differences between the actual show and the comic.
Yep. So that was the Tales from the Crypt 39 from that comic book. Um, yeah. So there's a few differences. The autopsy at the beginning is switched. It's a man, not a woman. And I don't know why that was a switch. Maybe they could do the weird sexual. Because that's another thing. The mortician's sort of like hot for the dead bodies. And it's just
I know there's that
very creepy.
necrophilia
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. Very necromantic kind of thing going on there.
Of
Um,
course, thank God it wasn't that bad. But anyway,
This is obviously not the videotaping found footage stuff because the original comic was in the 50s. They didn't have that
yeah.
back then. Um, another difference where it kind of takes some sympathy away from the kids a little bit. So
Mhm.
there's the scene where in the episode where they bring they bring some medication from the pharmacist to the mortician, and they end up dropping it, and it starts it starts fizzing and stuff like that because
Mhm.
it's acid,
Right.
um, which is how he kills the in the episode how he kills the pharmacist is he pours acid into his mouth and kind of like this is for trying to kill me, but um, even though it's the kids who are actually doing it because I think he's in the comic and in the episode he kind of goes, oh, this kids tricked us kind of thing, but it was sort
Yeah.
of an irony thing that he killed them with the stuff that he wasn't really going to kill him with, but he ended up doing it anyway. So, but in the comic, one of the kids brings over a cat with him, and he brings over the poison medication, and the medication ends up falling, and the cat eats it, and then the cat dies from it, and that's how they use
Um,
it. So, in the comic, it's kind of even though it does have the whole thing with the kid crying that his father's dead and that kind of stuff, but
mhm.
the fact that they killed a cat to show that
Yeah.
to that's kind of like ooh that's a little going a little too
I,
far.
I'm glad they left that out of the episode
Yeah,
because
it doesn't play as well. I don't think for those kids, but I think those are kind of the big differences from the
okay.
episode. But yeah,
Um, okay. And so I guess well, let me look at some things in the chat here because I know we've got Mystic Matt in here or Mystic Mike rather. Sorry, Mystic Mike. Um, and I don't remember Mike being in here before, but he says hello, chat and panel. And he also says, I luckily have the complete series of Crypt and Dark Side in my Google Drive now. Hard to come by streaming. Now, I did find, TJ, I don't know if you've seen these on there, but some person has taken I think all of the episodes in the series, and I don't know how they remastered them, but they look amazing. They look better than my DVDs that I got. I don't know what in the heck they did to them. They're probably
is
not
that
going to get.
on the like? HBO. Some of them had it on the HBO, like original, like before an episode of or a TV or a movie, they'd have this sort of little like
Oh
tags
yeah.
at the beginning. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've seen, yeah, because when I was looking for episodes on YouTube and online, I was like always looking for like um, just the best quality, so I could see
Right.
what was going on.
Yeah, and these are really good. So good, in fact, that I went on and subscribed to their channel because I might want to go back and
Ah, yes,
watch those since they look really good. Because I thought maybe at this day and time you could find these on Blu-ray, but I can't find like US versions on Blu-ray of Tales from the Crypt.
yeah.
Um, and as I was watching most of these last night, when I got to an episode we're going to talk about here in a little bit, Split Second, when I got to that, my DVD started freezing up and I could not get it to play. So I had to resort to YouTube and I was like, well, dang it. And I hope, other discs and the other sets, because I've got all the whole series on DVD. I'm hoping some of them are not like that. But um anyway, um I guess we'll move on to the next episode, which has Steven Weber on it. I love Steven Weber. I watched him in Wings.
Wings.
I
He's
absolutely
the
love
only
it.
female.
Hmm.
He plays the questionable boyfriend in that. Like he could have stopped her. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say.
um, but this episode
Chris
has us.
Campbell as Jack Torrance, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I
yep.
mean, he was okay, but he just
Didn't do it for you
the
exactly,
best part
TJ.
is when his face is all bloody and he looks like all like creepy and distorted. I think he played that really well. I think I think if he was just a crazy killer in a movie, I think he would have been great in a slasher movie as a reveal as the slasher killer. Um,
Hmm.
he was on a season of a show called I Zombie. I don't know if you ever watched that. That's where
No, I didn't. I didn't get around to watching that.
the girl
But
turns into a zombie, but she's gotta like live a regular life.
oh,
So
okay.
she just looks like a white haired goth chick.
But
But
in this episode, we're going to talk about he's a little bit shitty. I
he's a drunk and he's another down on his luck type of
yeah,
person.
that part of it I could see, but he's a little the way he treats women.
Oh yeah, he's a total
Is
douchebag.
yeah, yeah. But not only is Steven Weber in this, but Rita Wilson.
Rest in peace.
Um,
She's dead, right? She died, right?
Rita Wilson.
No, no. I'm thinking of what's his face's wife died. Um,
Oh,
John Travolta's wife. She died. Kelly Preston.
oh, Kelly Preston.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Rita
Kelly
Wilson is
Preston
Tom
did.
Hanks's wife.
Yeah, Rita Wilson is Tom Hanks's
Yeah.
woman.
Which she
Uh,
should be in the first episode of the fourth season, but they didn't get her in that episode.
exactly. But we also have Vincent Scavelli. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong as well. And I'm sure you guys and gals have seen him in a ton of stuff because he's he's one of those people that I consider a character actor too because he showed up in so much stuff.
And
Um,
Allie Walker from Universal Soldier.
oh, that's right.
She's the
Yeah.
girl in that, the main girl in that one.
Hmm.
Uh, and, she was in a not picked up pilot to. They were going to do a Witches of Eastwick television show, and she was going to play the Cher role, but it never got
But
picked up.
it didn't ever get going.
No.
So this episode is called Morning Mess, and I thought this was a creepy episode, especially towards the end of it. But I remembered the title of this one, but couldn't remember exactly what it was about. So it kind of got me at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and let TJ start talking about this one real quick here.
So yeah, so we have Stephen Weber's character. What the hell's his name? Dale Sweeney.
Hmm.
He's a writer, but he hasn't had a good story for a long time. He's a drunk. Like you said, he beds women and tells them to get out of his apartment.
Basically, yeah.
We see some nudity in this one. Not Rita Wilson, but which I guess I'm not surprised. Uh, anyway, this was the Tales from the Crypt. Which one was this? Tales from the Crypt 38. Um, directed by Manny Coda, who um, he did a lot of TV. He directed a bunch of American Horror Stories. He did some Dexter episodes. Um, he did a couple of the Outer Limits from the 90s. He did a couple of those episodes. He did an episode of the Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which is kind of funny that he did. He did
Yeah.
In fact, I wonder how many people who directed episodes of the HBO show did the cartoon.
That would be a good research thing to see if we can figure that out.
Yeah. Anyway, I think he wrote and direct. I think he directed it too. Dr. Giggles. He wrote and directed Dr. Giggles.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, he did. He did that. Oh, he also did the Monsters episode. Love Hurts. That's the one with the voodoo with the guy who worked for his
Yeah.
wife's whatever car rental plate, whatever the hell it was. Oh, yeah, wasn't it like they sold cars or something like that? Yeah, I think
Seems like it.
and he was a drunk, and yeah. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, so Steven Weber, yeah, he's down. Also, yeah, he's he wakes up from having sex with this girl, and his electricity goes out, and he's like, "You gotta get out of here." And she's like, "Oh, I thought we were gonna have breakfast and hang out or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, that was just the booze talking. Get out of my apartment."
Yeah, yeah, that's literally what he says to her. Just,
But it does start with the murder. Before that, of a homeless guy gets murdered, and this other homeless guy sort of witnesses it, and he kind of runs off. And then, like I said, we get introduced to Steven Weber's character. He goes to this. He's reporting on this, like, I forget what it was, a group of people that are like, do you remember what, I forget what they, was it a mayor? What the hell? I can't remember now. He goes to this, like, this like,
it's a group, but it was my understanding that they talked like that they were homeless before, but now they're kind of
that's what it is. They want to
they're
help the homeless
officials
in the
now.
city. And they're all former homeless people that became successful or whatever. That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
what the grateful homeless
yeah, they were, what was it?
outcasts and something.
The Grateful, Homeless, Outcast, and Unwanted Layaway Society.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, that comes into play later.
Yes, it will.
Spoil it. So, he's trying to get a story. He sort of sees Rita Wilson as sort of like one of the head people of the organization. Allie Walker, he goes to his publisher, who's Allie Walker, and she's basically fires him. And he's like, "I need this job. I need money. I'm like, I got no electricity. I got, whatever." And she basically fires him. So it's not like she's like, because usually in these episodes, it's like someone saying, "Well, okay, you're gonna do this last thing, and if you do this, she basically says fires his ass."
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, she's not gonna let him back in the door. No way.
Right. So basically, he's like, "Well, I got to figure out a story, so maybe I can get back into I can get a job and make some money here." So yeah, she basically throws him out because he's like, "You're not doing any work, and you're always drunk, and you don't show up." And she's like, "Screw you, get out of here." So he gets a late night visit from the homeless guy who witnessed the murder at the beginning, played by Vincent Schiavelli, who's very good at playing creepy, weird characters,
Yes, he is.
like in Ghost.
Mm.
He plays. He's in a couple episodes of Taxi.
Yeah.
He's Latka's priest. Is that what he's a priest or something like that?
Oh gosh, it's been. I remember him being in Taxi, but it's been so long since I've watched the episodes of it. I can't really
He marries
remember.
Andy Kaufman
Hmm.
and what's her face, Carol Kane,
Yeah.
which I thought, yeah. So he's in a lot of comedies, but he's in a lot of these where he's like a creepy weird guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, I got a great story for you. I'm scratching my foot. He's got a great story, and but he doesn't want to like kind of spill the whole beans. But he's like, this is, I know who. So there's the plot of this killer who's going around killing homeless people. And he's like, I witnessed what was going on, and I can give you a scoop on what's going on. And he's like, okay, if I can figure out who the killer is, I'll get my job back and all that. So Vincent, who plays Robert, is going to help him. Meanwhile, he meets up with Rita Wilson again, sort of falls for her, and they end up having sex after dinner. She's
Hmm.
vegetarian, we find out. He offers her a hamburger, and he's like, nah. She's like, nah. At first, she's like, but then she ends up doing them.
Yes.
But he's also using her for information because he's.
Yeah. He tries to record her.
Mhm.
He's not very discreet with that. He doesn't. And it's obvious when she sits up in bed that she's going to see
She sees
that
the video.
recorder.
Yeah. She ends up pulling the. This is back when it wasn't digital. There was a little tape in
Right.
there. She pulled the tape apart. So she leaves in a kind of annoyed. And he's like, at least I had sex. Anyway, he's going to have his meeting with Robert. Robert has just been attacked by the killer. He basically dies all bloody and gross. Weber ends up. What happens? I can't remember now. Does he? He gets drunk. That's what it is. He gets drunk after he finds the guy dead because that's his only lead on the story.
Right.
He passes out and he wakes up all kind of like disheveled, and he looks like he looks homeless himself. It looks like he just has been out.
Well, and he does eventually get evicted from his apartment,
Yes.
and he is homeless pretty much. But did I miss something in there, TJ? He has a car, but there's what I mean. Is it just because he got drunk and just kind of passed out by his car? Why
Yes.
the hell didn't he get in his car? Because it was raining on him.
Yeah, he passed. Yeah, he drinks. He passes out. It rains all over him. He has one more. He tries one more time to go to his publisher, and he's like, "I need a story. I gotta get my, I gotta get my apartment back." And he leaves, but she sort of feels sorry for him, because she's like, I'm gonna call the security on you." And he walks out, and she sort of looks at him, and she's sort of like, "Oh, poor guy," kind of like.
Yeah, she seems a little less bitchy at that point.
Yeah. So
So the homeless guy told
anyway,
the homeless guy told him before he died too that you didn't stay there long enough. You didn't stay in the cemetery long
because
enough.
he had told him go to that's when he ends up going back and sees Rita Wilson before they have sex. He says go to go to the. It's something to do with the bodies in the cemetery. Go to the cemetery, stay there till after dark, and stay there for a little while, and something's going to happen. He ends up not doing that. He ends up having sex with Rita Wilson instead.
Yeah.
So when he goes back to his meeting, um, he goes to the guy. Hey, you didn't stay long enough.
Yeah.
And then he ends up dying. So and he ends up a second time going to the cemetery. By the way, it's a cemetery for homeless people. That's why I forgot that part. That's why the people
Yeah.
were there at the beginning, because it's a cemetery for the homeless. So homeless people don't have any money. So it's it's a nice, fun, not fun, philanthropic. I don't know why I stopped. I said fun.
That's all right, TJ.
For the community, for this homeless people, that's cool. So this time, they're burying the guy who was going to give him the information. So he decides to actually stay there this time.
Yeah.
So he sort of camped out. Also, he doesn't know where to live anyway, so he kind of hangs out at the cemetery, and he's watching the where they were buried. The cemetery mounds level off. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" And he goes, digs up the grave. He sees a door.
Mm-hmm.
So he's expecting to see a coffin, but nope, he sees a door. And he falls through the door, and there are caverns underneath the cemetery, and there are tunnels that lead somewhere. So he comes across this room that has a bunch of coffins all around it. So there's sort of a cavern underneath. There's something that's in the comic, and I can't remember if it's in this episode or not. But I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up when I talk about the comic differences. So he hides in one of the coffins because he hears some people coming. It's the coffin that the homeless guy that he knew is in, and his corpse is all like missing part of his face, and it looks like he's been devoured. He pops up out of the coffin, and the coffin is on a table with set up for like a dinner table, basically. And he sees and we meet the people from the organization. So the organization, the grateful, homeless, outcast, unwanted layaway society. You know what that's the anagram for that spells? Not anagram. That's not what it's called. Anagram is think it's back.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is it called?
Is it acronym?
I don't know what things are anymore.
Is it acronym, TJ?
Acronym, that's right. It's so close to the word that I wanted
Right.
to say. Acronym for it's ghouls.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they're ghouls, and we find out Rita Wilson is also one of them. So she goes, does he go? Wait, does he go? You're a vegetarian? Or does she go? She basically goes, I'm not a vegetarian. I lied.
Yeah, and then she pulls her human mask off.
So they're these sort of deformed, weird creatures with these fang.
Yeah,
they're not
they're
fangs.
very creepy looking.
Yeah, they're like I guess flesh ripping teeth or whatever. And one of the other guys takes his mask off and whatever.
And don't they tear Steven Weber's ear off?
Yeah, he rips Steven Weber's ear off, and he says some kind of comment about we haven't had fresh meat in a long time.
Yes,
because they've been eating corpses. Yeah, and his ear, he's all bleeding. And then when Rita Wilson comes in, he's like, help me. And she's like, yeah, I think I'll help myself to some dinner. She says something like that. It's Tales from the Crypt, so you have to have some kind of weird pun. Yeah, and basically he's their next meal. Nice creepy close up of the weird faces and the teeth and whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the ending to the episode.
And I really like this episode, and I like the because, like I said, I had forgotten how this one ended, and I wasn't even like this was like I was watching it for the first time again, and so I didn't even pay attention to what those letters stood for. And
Yeah,
then I was like, "Oh yeah, I get it now." That, but I liked it because I had forgotten about the episode, so it was like I said, it was like I was watching it for the first time. So I really enjoyed it. I think this was a pretty creepy episode. It didn't really have, unless you count the ghouls, some of the things that they were saying towards the end of it is kind of comedic, but for the most part, I
yeah,
mean, they had a creepy look. It was like, oh god, when it got to Rita Wilson pulling her mask off, I was like, oh god, she's gonna pull it off, and she's gonna be one of those bald, weird looking things, and she did. And I think, in a way, she looked weirder than and more creepy than the guys when they pulled their masks off. But really good episode. Yeah, right. But I'm going to let TJ talk about the differences with the comic and the television episode.
yeah. So first of all, it's done in sort of it's out of order. So it starts with him digging up the grave.
Hmm.
So instead of it happening later in the story, it actually happens right at the beginning. Um, and then he does like a voiceover, sort of like going into, oh, this is when it started. And
Hmm.
one big difference in the comics is they're just ghouls. They're not deformed, so there's no reveal with masks and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think it's more they made it more theatrical for the Tales from the Crypt episode. Um, yeah, I think those are kind of the biggest differences. So it's a little out of order. They're not deformed. Um,
So did they just look like regular people, only they're ghouls? They eat people?
yeah, basically.
Okay.
I mean, in the last panel, they look more creepy than they are earlier, but it's basically, um, yeah. Um, Even though it was a Tales from the Crypt, the old witch is the one that actually was the
Oh,
narrator of the
okay.
episode. So yeah, actually I wish they had done other like spin-off, or at least tried to have the other like the old witch would have been cool. Like special guest host would have been.
Yeah, they could have had the others come on there and be with the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't want to do a witch puppet or anything. Um,
Oh well, it would have been a cool idea though if they had. Not that the Crypt Keeper's not cool. I always wanted to have either just a stationary Crypt Keeper or even better one that moved and talked and stuff like that. Didn't Spencer's used to have? Didn't they used to have one that talked or something? I
yeah,
think it was really expensive
I don't know
though.
if it was on Facebook or on YouTube, but I saw somebody did like they had one or they restored it or something like that. So I was like, oh, that would have been cool to like an animatronic crypt keeper. I think mostly
Yeah,
it just had moved. I don't know if it like not. I don't think anything else really moved or anything. Um,
right.
but yeah. Also,
Okay.
the comic it doesn't have the whole publisher backstory where he's down on his luck and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not. He's not that sort of. He's not the same character. Like I said, they upped it a little bit more.
It probably doesn't have all this sex that's in the.
No, this it's just him and the rich people and
Hmm.
him sort of um, following the case of what's going on and whatever.
They had
But
to spice it up a little bit for HBO. um, but moving on to the next episode, I like this one a whole lot because you don't have you don't have one, but you have two. people that get their comeuppance at the end of this one, and this is split second. And Brian James is in this, and Brian James. Have you ever seen him play a good guy, TJ? Ever?
Yeah, I don't know. Isn't there a movie where he's a cop and he's like a good guy? I can't remember now.
Maybe so, but everything in recent memory that I can think of, and of course I think he's passed away. He passed
Yes.
away years ago, didn't he?
Um, 99. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Oh,
several
holy
years.
shit. Not too long after this episode. Jeez.
Right, yeah. Um, but the screenplay is by Richard Christian Matheson, who um isn't he is he Richard Matheson's son, or he's
I don't
not any relation to
I
him?
don't think I don't know.
But I know that he wrote a lot of kind of I think he was I want to say he was the one that did the book that they based Bubba Hotep on. I don't
Yes,
remember if
it's his son. Yes.
okay. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. But he is a writer. He's written novels and short stories, I believe,
Hmm.
and I think they're all of like a horrific nature, pretty much. But he did the screenplay for this. But you got Brian James, you got Billy Worth in this as
Yep,
well.
Muscle is.
Yep,
Muscle.
exactly. And Michelle Johnson. Now, is Michelle Johnson the waitress in the bar? Is that who that is, or is that somebody different? It's
No,
about
yeah,
the only one
she's
I
the one
could
from Blue
think
Collar.
of.
Yeah.
Um,
She's in
so,
Waxwork. She's the one in the vampire.
oh, okay,
She plays
yeah,
China in that.
uh
And
huh,
you've seen Death Becomes Her, right?
yeah. It's been a while, but I've seen
Well,
it.
she's the one that um, um, she works in the salon that um, Meryl Streep goes to, and
Okay.
she tells her about the place where she can get the. She's like, go here, and you can get, she basically is the one that leads her to the place to get the potion. Um,
Okay.
where Meryl Streep's like, you with your tits and your butt like steel, that kind of stuff, whatever the hell, like, yeah, something like that, yeah.
But I don't know if TJ was fooled by this, because like I remembered the episode once it got into it a little bit,
Hmm.
but when the episode first started, I was under the impression that maybe the girl playing the waitress, Michelle Johnson's character, was going to be one of those down on her luck type of people. But no, she's more of like a gold digger, is what I would call her. And then Brian James, of course, is just crazy. He's just a crazy ass. You,
He's
you
very
look,
crazy.
yeah, you're right. But
Way better. And oh, he's in Jeff Lieberman's Blue Sunshine.
I had forgotten about that.
He's the weird guy who like he's pretends to be a bird and he's like woo woo woo.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that now. Blue Sunshine's a crazy ass movie anyway, but I do have it on I have it on DVD. I don't know, did it ever come out on Blu-ray, TJ? I probably, if it did, I probably need to get it.
Hmm. I have the 80 disc Blade Runner. I know I have that Blu-ray that came out with like the 50 different versions of the movie. And
Oh
I
yeah,
thought it
right.
was I wonder if I can't remember. Was it 4K? I don't think it was. Um,
I think Steve got he got a new version of it like not very long ago. It seemed like maybe in the last couple of years or so.
hmm.
Um, but anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to TJ to start talking about Split Second.
Also, Brian James is in the horror show. He's basically Freddy
He
Krueger.
is. He's crazy in that too.
And the director was Russell Mulcahy, who directed
Mhm.
a lot of. He was a big video director in the '80s. He directed like most of Duran Duran's videos, and
Okay.
he did like Betty Davis Eyes, and he did a whole. He
Mhm.
did um, um, what's his name? Um, um, Boy, my brain is just a kid.
My brain's getting bad anymore. I'm afraid I'm getting early stage Alzheimer's or something.
He recently did a movie about his life. I know his husband was Bernie Taupin. I know what the hell is his name. I can't remember his name. The gay guy.
You talking about Elton John?
Elton John. Why can't I think of Elton John? I cannot think of Elton John's name. Uh,
You're getting as bad as me, TJ,
oh my
now.
god. But he also directed a lot of TV. Like he directed that Teen Wolf series, which I didn't watch because I'm not into those. Um,
I like the Teen Wolf movie. I like the
yeah,
first
yeah. But
one more.
he did the Teen Wolf TV series, the recent one, the
Uh,
WV version of Teen Wolf.
oh God. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't need that.
Oh, he did Resident Evil Extinction. That's right, he did that.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah. Oh well, Anyway, back to the episode. So Michelle Johnson plays Liz. Liz works in a bar that where it's a town where they have lumberjacks. It's like a lumberjack town. There's the local lumberjack company. I don't know what the hell you call it. Where Brian James plays Steve Dixon. Dixon owns the place. Um, Liz is sort of being harassed by the local um, tree cutters. There's got to be technical names, but I don't remember what the hell they're supposed to be called. So anyway, Dixon owns the logging company. That's what it is.
yeah, logging
I couldn't
company.
think of the word logging. Anyway, I'm gonna write it down so I remember it. Logging company.
I
Uh,
should be able to remember that because my papa used to do a lot of logging.
oh, okay, cool. Um, they use this one. They use chainsaw. I think in the comic they use axes, but in this it's chainsaws. Anyway,
Except Billy Worth uses an axe.
yeah. Well, we'll get to that. Uh, so she's sort of just like, and Dixon kind of falls for her, and she's like, "Hell, what do I mean? I work in a bar, and I'm sick of being harassed by the loggers. So I'm like, all right." She marries him for his money, but it's like, yeah, what else is she gonna do?
Yeah, she gets bored. She gets bored with
Yeah, she
men
gets bored very
easily.
easy. That's her character. She gets very bored with life, so she's
Mm.
just looking for the next new thing. So she kind of likes flirting with the other loggers, but Dixon is a very um, possessive person. He's like, nope, stay away from my wife.
He gets that crazy look in his eyes.
But she's sort of flaunting herself to the other guy. So
Yeah.
he's kind of giving her she's kind of giving him a reason to be jealous. So but he's already jealous. She's making it worse. Um, so we get this young guy, Ted, who comes to town, played by Billy Worth. She's automatically into him. Because he's like the hot young guy.
She's
Um,
kind of a bitch to him when he shows up at their door at first, though, because she says, "What do I look like, the fucking employment agency or something like
yeah,
that?"
yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm looking for a job, and she says that to him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's just sort of become complacent and kind of stuck there, and she's like, yeah, she's not. Even though she's sort of harassed at the beginning, she's not really like. She's not a sweet angel that.
Right.
Um, anyway, so she ends up wanting to have something exciting, so she ends up having sex with Billy Worth. She's sort of, taunting him a little bit with her body. but she ends up having sex with him. Um, yeah, so you mentioned he uses everybody else uses a chainsaw, but he uses an axe. So when he comes looking for a job, Liz introduces him to her husband, who's the owner, and he's like, "Well, show me what you got." And he grabs an axe and it's not as fast as a chainsaw, but he does pretty well cutting the wood with the chainsaw because it's like I like doing it the old fashioned way.
And
So he
they're gonna use they're gonna have they have some kind of log chopping contest, I guess, every year or something. And they say, well, we've got our new guy to enter the whatever this contest is that they've got going.
But yeah, so Brian James shows kind of how kind of brutal and jealous and brutal he is. Um, one of the workers says something about his wife, and he grabs this like metal stick or something and shoves it in his mouth and sort of
Yeah.
like trying to sort of like moving it around and kind of like choking him with it. And the guy's bleeding, and then it's like, yeah, he's not a nice guy. This guy. So yeah, she's not great. He's not great. They're really not two. They're two kind of scummy people that are sort of together. Um, oh boy, my accent really came out there. Yeah, okay. I just came back from a movie last night where a couple of people are talking in accents, and I was like, oh, anyway. So she ends up having sex with Billy Worth. They get caught. He kind of starts bashing him in the head. He wakes up blind. Now he's blind because of what happened. So Liz kind of gets away from the guys. Kind of, this is a good idea for her to stay away from everybody. So meanwhile, the other guys in the logging company are trying to help out Ted, trying to get him to at least be able to still do his job even though he can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up sort of becoming, he works through his blindness and he's sort of able to do something because, eventually he'll probably be kicked out if he can't do anything because, Dixon isn't the nicest guy. He's probably not going to let him stay for too long if he can't do anything. And Ted's sort of like, even though he has sex with the wife, he's sort of a good kid, kind of.
Yeah.
But then if you can't, cheating is cheating. So, but he's still not a bad kid. And she sort of coerces him into having sex with her.
And then after he's blinded, she's like, "What was I gonna do? Sit around and be sad about it, or something like that?" That just shows you what a cold-hearted bitch she is.
Well, but she says to him, "You can't just don't. What are you gonna do? Just lay there and cry about it? Just go on with your life or whatever like that." So she's not really, she's not sympathetic at all. But so he sort of figures out how to use the axe, even though he can't see. So he can still be useful to the rest of the loggers. Also, about he can still help them with the contest or whatever. So the guys decide to do something else though to make up for what happened to poor Ted. They go to Brian James and Dixon, and they go, "Hey, Ted wants to show you something. He's learned something new." And he's like, "Fuck you guys. I'm busy here. I don't need to bother you." And they basically hold him at, what do they use, knives or something? I can't remember this.
Was it knives, or are they threatening with a gun, or is it just knives?
I can't remember now. I can't remember. My brain. I need some sleep. I'm gonna lie and say it's sleep, and not that my brain just doesn't. Yeah, they hold a knife up to his neck, and they actually both. They have a knife and a gun.
Oh, so we were both right, I guess.
They're like, hey, you're going to see what Ted can do. Okay. So we cut to the Ted and the loggers, and they're kind of sitting around. They have Ted has a chainsaw in his hand, and they're sort of moving him around, and they're like, "Hey, we got something fun for you to do." Um,
Hmm.
and he starts. We see these two tree stumps, and they're framed so you can't see the top of the stumps. So, and there's an axe in the foreground and a piece of in another stump. So he starts cutting one of the stumps down, and he's cutting them into sections. We first kind of see the pieces of the wood kind of flying at him. Then we start
Hmm.
seeing some red droplets, and he's sort of reacting to it. And you think he's just reacting to the. I'm making a point. I'm saying this because I'm making a point. He starts reacting to sort of just the shard, the pieces of wood that are flying at him, the sawdust and everything like that. But then he starts to get wet, and we see blood splattering his face.
Hmm.
And I'm making the point is that you kind of think he doesn't know what he's doing, but that blood's hitting him in the face, and I guess
Yeah.
you can tell the difference between blood and sawdust. So I think he kind of knows what he's doing at some point, and he's really smiling, and he's really into it.
Yes.
And we cut back, and we see that it's Liz and Dixon that are in the logs, and
Mm.
um, they
And
got
then
their little
he's gonna take care of her next. So
yeah,
he's
yeah. So he does sections, and then the guys push down the sections, and then we see Brian James's head sticking out, and then we see the little sections of the bodies. It's very EC. Like if you look at some of the comic panels,
yeah.
they'll draw like it'll look like the pieces of the sections of the wood and stuff like that, but it's like bone sticking out, and it's a very EC looking cross section of his body kind of diet. And
Yeah.
then Liz is next, and then you hear her in a voiceover going, "Well, these guys are doing what I've been looking for my whole life: a permanent a solution to a permanent case of boredom." Is
Yeah. Exactly.
so her face is saying that she's scared that she's gonna die, but the voiceover is she's like, "Yeah, oh well, I guess that
Yeah.
happened."
I'm gonna be cut up, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
and, and he's screaming, "Yay, guys! I love you guys. This is fun." And,
Yeah. This, believe it or not, this was probably one of my favorite episodes. Just, I mean, just because it's so, I think it's because, like TJ said, it's very EC comics, and it's just, I don't know, it's just fun, even though it has some really bad people in it, and it gets kind of gruesome towards the end. Um, Still, I mean, I don't know what TJ thinks about, but I think those characters, not the real people, but the characters in it, I think they totally deserve that by the end because they were just not nice people.
yeah,
Um, but I did really like the episode, and I enjoyed revisiting it. It was one of the few that I remember the main core of the story
yeah.
from way back when I watched it before. So, excuse me, I'm going to let TJ talk about the comic differences and the television episode.
Okay, we will do that after I do something on my computer for half a second because I'm
Okay.
trying to multitask here. Anyway, so yeah, so there's a few differences. So, and one of the big differences is Ted does not have sex with her. He's
Right.
totally innocent.
Mm,
She's trying to because she's bored in the logging, but yeah. So I think he's not swayed by her looks and her coming on to him. So I think that's a big difference um, in the storytelling. It's like I don't think you really. I mean, they obviously wanted to add some spice to the episode, so they threw in the sex scene. So
Hmm.
I think it would have played better without him having had sex with her. You know,
Right.
because like I said, it makes him a total innocent. So everything that happens to him, it's not his fault. Um, though I mean, it's not his fault, but it's more his fault in the episode than it is.
Because it takes two to tango, right, TJ?
Yes. Which is that's another thing too. I think she's not a bartender like a waitress. She's like a cabaret performer or like a singer or something like that. So excuse me. Yeah, I think that's the big difference. But he's still very Dixon is still very violent. He's still um, yeah. The two of them are really there's no redeeming qualities about them in the comic either. So but you know. Also, she lies and says he tried to have sex with me. That's why he
Hmm.
gets beaten up by Dixon in the comic. So yeah, those are some differences there. Um, actually, I think that's what I think she kind of says that in the doesn't she say that in the episode
That
or does she catch them? I can't remember now.
I thought he caught them
He does
having
he does
sex.
catch them. Okay, but doesn't she say, "Oh, he was
Yeah, I think she tries to put all the blame on him
Yeah,
on Ted.
but but it's a total fake in the comic that she's just a terrible person.
But of
So yeah,
course,
I think
HBO had to have that extra sex and
yes,
extra nudity and all that good stuff.
but yeah,
Um,
those are kind of the biggest differences. Um,
okay,
Also,
so
like I said earlier, it's just axes. There's no chainsaws in the comic, um, because I mean I'm sure they had did they have chainsaws in the 50s? I don't even know. When
I'm
was the
not even sure if they did or
do we
not.
know the history of the chainsaw?
Yeah, who knows history of chainsaws? When did chainsaws come about?
But yeah.
But moving on to the next episode, Deadline. Now this is Britannia Alda in it. Richard Jordan's in it.
Mhm.
And it's her. Is Helgenberger's first name? Is it pronounced Marge or
I think it's Marg.
Marg?
I think it's
Okay, I
Marg.
wasn't ever sure
Yeah.
if it was Marg or Marge. So okay. And this Walter Hill directed it, and he has one half of the screenplay credits, um, which I thought this was like a gritty Walter Hill type of deal. Did you feel that way, TJ, about this episode?
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I could see that.
But I have to run to the restroom, so I'm going to let TJ start talking about this one, and I'll be right back.
Oh, by the way, I forgot the big um, in split second the Crypt Keeper end segment. He
Uh,
he has Joel Silver tied to a
oh,
log,
that's right. Yeah, he does.
and he's about to chop him up with the chainsaw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like my producers.
yeah, that was a fun part. I'm sorry. Yeah, go to the bathroom. Go.
Yeah. Okay. Be right back.
Yes. So deadline. Um, Yep, Mark Helgenberger's in it. She was in Species. She's in one of Dana's favorite movies, After Midnight. Um, she was in the Tommy Knockers. The special effects on the Tommy Knockers are terrible. But yeah, it's directed by 48 Hours director Walter Hill. Um, Richard Jordan plays Charlie, the main character. Um, he's in an '80s movie called Solar Babies. I wonder if anybody in the chat knows Solar Babies. Have you ever seen Solar Babies? Yes, Blissful. Mark is also in China Beach. And Ratanya Arnold is in it. from Amityville to The Possession and Mommy Dearest, and she's in the TV cut of Halloween. Um, oh, and it's John Polito is in it. Anyway, so Charlie is so. This is another story where it's another writer uh, um, who's sort of on the outs with the people he works for. So it's interesting they did two down on their luck writers in the same season. But this is very different from the Steven Weber one. This episode is more of a film noir feel to it, which I think it was a shock suspense. Yeah, this was shock suspense 12, so it was before they were like totally horror. So this is more like like I said, more of a film noir without a voiceover type of situation though. So yeah, so he plays this sort of he's an alcoholic, and he's trying to get off of the booze because it's affecting his writing. So this is sort of another, like the Steven Weber one, but in this one he doesn't want to be an alcoholic.
Right. There's a lot of alcoholism.
This is a very alcoholic story in the episodes we've been talking about.
Exactly.
But he doesn't like. He's not in a group therapy like the other guy was. But this guy, he doesn't want to be an alcoholic because he wants to continue being a newspaper writer and yeah. So. Sorry, I had to look something. Anyway, he's in a bar. He's talking about, I gotta get off the booze. I forgot Richard Hurd is in this too.
Oh yeah, forgot to mention that.
And this is a bartender. Who the hell plays the bartender? Oh yeah, John. How do you pronounce his name? Is it Capodice or is it Capodice? I can't remember how you pronounce it.
That I don't know.
Because I want to say Capodice sounds Italian. I think he's Italian, right?
He looked Italian.
I think people might know him from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. He's the sort of the jerky detective dude who's like insulting him throughout the movie, and there's like the big scene where he discovers the blood and all that stuff, and they're like saying like what is there's a guppy who's a guppy murderer. He makes jokes like that. Anyway, he plays the bartender. So yeah, so he meets what the hell's her name? He meets Mark Helgenberger, who plays Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
She's sort of this attractive woman. She's at the bar. He's sort of hitting on her, but he's not suave. Let's say that.
No, he is not.
She's like, yeah. It's like, I really don't want to. You're drunk. I really don't want to. You're not my type kind of situation. But she ends up leaving with him, and they have sex. And she's like, well, let's keep this casual. I'm not into getting into a relationship, that kind of thing. But he's kind of falling for her. He meets up with his publisher, John, who's played by John Hurd. And he's like, I need a good headline. I need like a good story. You're not giving me anything. And he's like, all right, I'm off the drinking. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. I'm gonna find a story. He does one of those. I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it.
Right.
I'm gonna get out the sauce, and I'm gonna be a good member of society and stuff like that.
And this publisher kind of gives him the benefit of the
Yeah,
doubt.
this publisher's a lot nicer than what's her face from the last one.
Yeah.
But he's still down on his luck. He goes to his sister to borrow some money, played by Ratanya Arnold. And she's like, I don't want to give you any money because you're just going to drink it away. And he's like, no, I'm going to use this money and I'm going to change. And she's not believing him, but she's trying to help her brother out for the one last time, maybe. So she gives him the money. He goes off. Meanwhile, he goes back to Mark Helgenberger. He starts becoming more involved with her, and he's falling in love with her. But he's still trying to find a story. He goes to the bar. He's kind of maybe falling off the wagon again, but the bartender's like, no, I'm not going to serve you. And he's like, fine, I'll go to the local diner. He goes to the diner. He has some coffees, trying to come up with some story ideas. And he hears a commotion in the back. The cook, or probably the owner of the restaurant, is it's probably like a diner. It's more of a diner than a restaurant. Let's say. So the guy who owns the diner comes out from the back. He's like, I just killed my wife. He doesn't know. He's like, I just killed my wife. She's been cheating on me. She married me for my money, but she didn't really love me, and she'll going out with any man that she can find. She's having sex with him. He's like, oh, okay. Tell me what happened. And he's getting this for a story because he's like, murder is a great story to have. And I even think that the publisher kind of alludes that like I need like a good like a murder. So he goes in the back, makes a phone call. He's calling the publisher and he says, hey, I got this story. Oh, but he's like, let me call you back. He starts hearing the woman sort of coming to, so she's not dead. She turns over, and it's Vicky.
I had that figured out before it got to the.
She's turned over. You only see her hair. You don't really see her, but if you follow the Tales from the Crypt plot, you kind of figure out who the woman is. It's Vicky. She's like, "Oh, Charlie, it's you." But he's like, "I can't lose my story." So he's like, "You lied to me," and he starts strangling her, and she's like, "Charlie," and he kills her for good this time.
Yeah, he finishes her off.
Yeah.
Completely.
But I have a feeling he cared more about the story than the fact that she had a husband. Like, I think if it wasn't for the story, he kind of would have been like, don't worry. Screw the husband. We'll go off together and get married. Because he still loves her, I think. But he chose the story over being in love with her.
Yeah.
But in this, and then after he's like, he calls the publisher again and he's like, she's dead and I'm going to give you the story. But we find out he's been telling us this story waiting to be executed for the murder of her. Yeah. So I guess he was caught.
So was he in prison or was he in a mental hospital? It looked like they had.
But he's in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
So he's both. I think he's in a mental hospital in a prison.
Okay.
Because he's waiting to be executed for the murder.
Right.
So yeah. And it's cute that the Crypt Keeper, he's a bartender in the opening and closing segments. He's pouring the drinks and stuff like that. In the beginning, too, it's a very Walter Hill, like kind of like.
Yeah.
It's like a moving shot, and it goes up to the bar. So I think that's like the best shot in the movie.
Yeah.
The episode is the opening Crypt Keeper segment. I wish it wasn't another drunk story, and I wish it wasn't another somebody who's a down on his luck writer.
Yeah.
But I like the film noir aspect makes it a little bit different than the one with Steven Weber.
Yeah. I'm not sure why they chose to have the alcohol theme running through
Yeah.
at
I don't think
least
I don't
three
think in the 90s
episodes.
alcoholism was a big thing in the early 90s. It's a disease. It's not funny, but just as
Yeah,
far as
right. Yeah. Uh,
but
but one thing I was looking at, Richard Jordan died 2 years after this episode,
yeah,
which I was like, wow, man, he lived 2 years after that. And then,
I know.
but, um, I liked the episode, but and I thought Walter Hill did a great job with it and everything. I do agree with TJ that the opening and closing segments with the Crypt Keeper was probably the best shot
Yes.
of the entire episode. Those bookends there, but
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
you count the Crypt Keeper segments as a whole with the story, I think it's one of the better episodes. If you just like the opening and closing segments.
right. But I did. Sadly, I thought this one was a little weaker than the ones that have come
I
before
did
it.
too. Yep.
And I don't know if it was we already had something about a down on their luck writer that
Yep. I think
had
that's
issues with
definitely one of the
alcohol,
reasons.
and then Tim Ross character in Easel Kill Ya had a problem with alcohol. He was trying to get help, but we've had three different episodes that had something to do with alcohol,
Yeah.
and maybe that's just overkill a little bit with that. It's almost like they were. I hate to say it this way, but beating a dead horse, like beating us over the head with it.
There are
Um,
so many
a little bit.
stories in the comics that I would have loved to have seen them develop, but
Yeah, there probably were a lot more really great stories that they could have turned into episodes,
yeah,
and I don't know. It. I wonder if it's one of those things where they had to pay so much for each one of these stories, and maybe they wanted too much for some of these. Maybe they asked for them, and they said, "Well, it's going to be X number of dollars," and they were like, Even though HBO was kind of footing the bill there, maybe HBO put the kibosh on that, and so we're not doing that.
I wish
Uh,
they had more corpses coming from the dead because there was
mhm,
only like the thing from the grave might have been the only one that was like a
yeah,
not zombie, but they're not zombies. They're people coming back to life to get their revenge. I mean,
yeah.
maybe they want to
That
get
was,
away from the supernatural aspect more, but I don't know.
but okay. So we're getting ready to talk about spoiled,
Yes.
which um, oh, did I not? Did you talk about the differences between the two? Am I just losing my mind? I didn't want to forget to do that. Um,
Yes.
before. Okay, I'm
I
just
did
like
not. Yes, I did.
okay, just as long as you did, because I want to give you the opportunity to do
Yeah,
that
I
with
talked
each.
about how it's different in the ending where he wasn't.
Right,
Oh wait a
gotcha.
minute, did I? Wait a minute.
Or are we getting totally confused?
No,
Me?
wait a minute. Did it? Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Yeah, because wait a minute. No, maybe I didn't do it. Okay, well, okay. No, I didn't do it. Okay, you're right.
Okay, you go ahead and do that before we move on to the next one.
So in the comic book episode, maybe I did. Now I'm confusing myself. All right, I'm going to say it again, and if I'm wrong, then we'll just edit that out. So in the comic, the ending's different, where she. No, I can't. Wait a minute. Now I'm confused with myself now. So the ending, he. Okay, so in the ending, he goes to the diner. Um, the guy says, "Oh, I just told my wife." He goes in sees her turned over, sees the body. Um, then I think he's gonna call the police, or he's calling his publisher. Does he do the same thing? No.
Well, I know in the episode he told the guy, the husband, he said, "I'm going to call the cops," but he doesn't call the cops. He calls his publisher. So did he do the same thing in the comic?
Oh, what, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Okay. So the guy tells him the story about what happened. Like I said, the same. It's the same thing. She just married for my money. She just cheated on me whenever she wanted. Um, and he calls the city desk. He calls the publisher, um, with the big scoop, and um, he he goes in, sees that she's not dead, and as she's getting up, he goes over and strangles her,
Mm-hmm.
and he kills her, and then he turns over and realizes it's the girl he fell in love with. So he doesn't know who it is and then kill her. He just
Right.
thinks it's some random woman he doesn't know and kills her because he wants his story. And then he turns over and it ends with him realizing he just killed the woman that he fell in love with and that it was her all the time. And it ends
Mm.
there. So that's the big difference.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference right
Which I
there.
think I would have liked that better
Mm-hmm.
instead of him, instead of the whole he killed the woman he loved with just to get the story, and now he's gonna
Yeah, that I
yeah,
think
whatever.
the way it was in the comic made him seem like less of a shit, you know.
And it's more tragic, I think,
Mhm.
instead
Yeah.
of just sort of him punishing her by killing her because of yeah.
Wes, this is not a watch along. We're just we're doing an episode breakdown of the
I would have been shorter if I didn't do my whole Thanksgiving.
yeah, TJ did a spoiler free review for Thanksgiving though before we got started with these
But
episodes.
yeah, that's the huge difference between the two versions. So
Alrighty,
I'll just leave
so
it at that. We'll just stop there.
now we'll move to an episode that I didn't really care for this one. This one was a little
Okay.
bit too goofy for my taste. And I remembered it when it got so far into it. I was like, oh, I remember what happens here. But Faye Grant's in this.
From V.
Tristan Rogers. Who all remembers Tristan Rogers from General Hospital? Robert Scorpio.
Which is a perfect casting because there's a soap opera element into this in this episode.
Yes. And Tristan Rogers is part of that subplot or whatever you want to call it. Um, Anthony, how do you pronounce his last?
Paglia.
Okay, I'll let you just say it
I'm
because
giving
that's
you
probably
Italian names. I'll help you out with those.
but yeah, this one has a kind of goofy soap opera esque. I mean, the Tristan Rogers stuff was okay. It reminded me of the soap operas at the time with the way
Yeah.
uh, the wife was wanting to cheat on him with somebody else in the company and all of that stuff. But I just didn't like the whole housewife with the rich husband, so she don't really have to do anything but fold laundry and sit around and look pretty all day type of thing. And
Well, he's a doctor. I mean, rich is some doctors are rich. eh. I think she's a housewife.
But I guess it's the bored housewife syndrome
Yeah,
is what
that's
it
what. Yeah.
is because you see her and I guess her neighbor, and they're both watching the soap opera and they're really into it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just, oh my God, just going crazy over, what the action that's happening on the screen. And, I know people like that. I used to watch soap operas too when they actually had them on TV.
Yeah.
And, you had all the different ones. I'm not going to go into all of them, but there was a time when I used to watch General Hospital a lot, and I would watch it on and off. Um, Mom got out of General Hospital early. She liked it really well in the Luke and Laura days. My Aunt Pam did too, and the Robert Scorpio and Anna and
That was
Grant
my favorite story.
and Grant Putnam was a crazy guy, and he kidnapped Anna, and all of that stuff.
Hughes from
Yeah,
oh, she's Saturday Night Staying Alive, which is a terrible movie, but she is in it. She's also in a movie called she's a background dancer, but she's in the movie The Apple. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's so bad. You should do a watch along. It's so bad.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll have to see if I can find
Kristen
it.
Stewart is in it.
Oh, really?
She plays a singer, but her voice is dubbed, so she never sings a lick in the movie.
Wes said he watched Santa Barbara back in the day. I never watched
Wow.
Santa Barbara. I would watch General Hospital, Young and the Restless, One Life to Live, All My Children. At different times. I can't remember what channel Santa Barbara was on, but that wasn't one my mom watched. So, um, but then my granny and granddaddy would watch like As the World Turns and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that too. But anyway, we'll get back to this episode. Totally off track talking about soap operas, but so I'm gonna let TJ start talking about this episode, Spoiled.
Okay. Spoiled. Okay. Directed by Andy Wolk, who I don't know his work that well. Hmm. Did he direct a lot? Stuff I never heard of. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I haven't seen a single thing here that I ever seen. And he directed 2 episodes of Arliss and an episode of The Sopranos. I guess he was a TV director. Those are hard to like go. Oh, I know what TV. I don't know famous. Who knows famous TV directors? I mean,
No.
no. Anyway, spoiled. Yeah, like you said, Faye Grant plays like you said, she's a housewife, watches soap operas all the time. Her husband basically ignores her completely. He's a doctor. But he's always working on like
Research
the
stuff.
next cure of whatever and the next scientific discovery he wants to find. Um, so she's a bored housewife. She wants to have excitement like they do on the soap operas. Um, so she's having trouble with her television. We get the television repair guy, who she's sort of flirting with.
Yeah, the cable guy.
Played by LaPaglia. He's Abel, the cable guy.
He's able with the cable.
There's a lot of sexual innuendo about
Yep.
laying cables and all that, and
And
she's
connecting the male and the female connectors
yeah,
and
yeah,
just all kinds of stuff.
yeah. So she ends up having an affair with him. Um, when the husband comes home, he immediately goes into his home lab, and there's a red light. And when the red light's on, she's not allowed to come in. She's trying to spice up their marriage a little bit. She's sort of coming on to him. But this is before she cheats on him. So she's trying to
Mhm.
spice up the marriage, but he's just not doing anything, and he's totally ignoring her. Now, like I said, cheating is wrong, but he's really not. He's not having a relationship with her, really. I mean, he's married to her, but he's not doing it. He's not. He's really not paying attention. He goes right to the
I
right to
mean,
the.
she gets in the sexy negligees and
Well,
everything, and
she's
he
trying to
still
turn him
doesn't.
on, and she looks pretty good. I mean, Faye Grant was
Yeah.
hot back then. I don't know what she looks like now. Um, but it's weird because it's a comedic episode, and I only know Faye Grant from V, and that was a pretty serious drama. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
sci-fi movie, but it's a TV show, but it's very dramatic. Um, so at first it was hard for me to get into the episode, and then once I realized that's how the episode was, I was with her character a little bit more. Um, but yeah, so anyway, she ends up having an affair because she just gives up on her husband trying to have sex with him. Um, but it's not an episode where they have sex and then she's gonna kill him, kind of plot.
Right.
So at least it's not that. It's something different. Um, and yeah, but he ends up. So, but she's really being like adventurous. Like at any moment, like he ends up spending a lot of time in his lab, but she's like, well, we can have sex. We just have to watch to make sure
Yeah,
that the
but
light goes
yeah,
on.
make sure the red light stays on because if it goes off, that means he's coming
Yeah, so
back
she's
into
getting really
it.
risky here with the
Mhm.
sex because
A little
eventually
bit.
he's like, I'm not gonna go to the office anymore. I'm gonna just do work from home. So she's like, all right, we can still have sex, but we just gotta watch out for the light. And I was like, ooh, she's really risky here. So
Yeah.
she wants to get caught. It seems at this point.
I wonder if it's one of those things like people that want to have sex in elevators or something because the thought of somebody seeing them is exciting.
This is the comedic version of Dress to Kill.
You're right.
But she's only having sex with one guy. She's not having sex with a bunch of guys who I think that was Dress to Kill. She just kept having random sex with people.
Mhm.
And this is the 90s too. I'm sure Faye Grant had condoms in it. But anyway,
Right.
that's getting away from the episode. Anyway, so there's a part of the episode where they're having sex. Um, um, Leon, played by Alan Ratchins, who's the husband,
Mhm.
he's like, "Oh, I made this discovery. I want to show my wife," because he's really excited. He forgets to turn the red light off, so he ends up seeing them while they're having sex, and he sort of breaks at this point,
Yeah.
and he decides to um, chloroform them and knock them out. And so he's discovered this anesthetic that's supposed to keep a patient out longer, which gives him
Mhm.
more time to. I don't know if it's legal, if this is like medically uh, plausible. It sounds like
Yeah,
it's
I kind of thought maybe not.
because it's like the anesthetic is supposed to keep them under longer, so he
Yeah,
can
I think didn't he
things longer and have better chance of keeping the brain active to
mm, to repair any damage, I guess, or something?
this doesn't sound
Didn't
legitimate.
he say at one time that they might be able to keep them out for a week or something
Yeah.
like that? Why would you want to do that?
I mean, I had some surgery, and I was out for like an hour or two, and I
Mhm.
was fucked up for like a few days.
Can you imagine if you were out for a week?
Out for a week. Ooh. Yeah. But anyway, um, he decides to chloroform them and teach them a lesson for the infidelity.
Mhm.
Um, so we get some montage of, boy, that accent is really going. A montage of close up of medical tools and blood and the bodies and so they wake up from the anesthetic and he has switched their heads with their bodies to
Mhm.
kind of like punish them for having sex. I guess they won't have sex anymore now that they're like shocked and they're feeling the bodies and they're like, oh no. It's very Frankenhooker, like when he's touching the bodies.
Yeah, but I just thought it was a
Like the
little
monster,
too.
you know.
I thought it was a little too goofy for Tales from the Crypt. I think that's probably why I didn't like this one as well. I was like, are we going to
Yeah,
go there with this?
I can see what you're saying.
Mm,
But I think
but
all the episodes, this is sort of, especially the next episode, which is so heavy that I think you needed a, a
a little
lighter.
bit lighter.
Yeah, in fact, they should have switched them around. Maybe the lighter one should have been after the next one, because I
Hmm.
think it would have. It was more of an EC comic
Yeah.
type of story. So I think for the last one, and it was more comedic. I think it might have been better. But anyway,
Um, but
so
yeah,
yeah,
I don't think I can add much more to it except that it wasn't one of my favorite episodes. It wasn't absolutely horrible in that I could see myself going back and watching it again after a little while.
yeah.
Um, but just it's not one of those top of the line episodes for me. But I'm going to let TJ go ahead and start talking about the differences between the comic and the episode. Hey, Brian, by the way. Oh, Brian, I'm seeing what you were talking about after your spine surgery. Eek.
Well, do you want to talk about that for a second? I can.
Uh, yeah. Brian says that he was out for 5 days after his spine surgery
Uh-huh.
because they had to cut his tongue because it had swelled around the in- intubation tube, and
Oh,
I was choking. Didn't wake me till swelling was reduced. Oh man! And then he says after I finally woke, I didn't get my eyesight back for almost 12 hours from the meds. That would freak me out if I woke up and couldn't see. Holy cow!
so let's see. What were the differences?
Mm.
Well, one difference is the names are changed around. Um, the husband is Abel in the comic,
Uh,
um, because they wanted. I think the main reason is they wanted to do the joke about Abel, the cable guy.
yeah,
So they switched the names for the pun. Um, oh, a couple of things I did like about the episode is, they made a joke about, she had, her TV was just like a regular with antenna, not like a. And she's like,
yeah,
and her friend's like, why don't you just get HBO? Which is funny because Tales from the Crypt was on HBO.
yeah, exactly.
Also later, when the cable guy, puts the cable in, he's like, you can get stuff like this, and he turns it on, and it's
It's
you
Tales
know,
from the Crypt. Yeah,
start laughing, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Those are cute little touches that they put.
that was cute. I did like that.
Um, but yeah, the difference is there's no soap opera, um, storyline at all. That is
Mhm.
not in there. Um, that's a big difference. Also, in the comic, it starts with flashbacks.
Uh-huh.
Um, we don't get the reveal to the end, but we get the two of them talking, and we see them from behind. So when it's revealed, comes in, we see that at the end. Um, Also in the comic, she doesn't. There's no cable guy, obviously, because there's no soap opera, gimmick. But there's also he doesn't come to her. She goes out to find somebody. So she's more
Uh,
cheating on the husband, like
right.
a definite I'm gonna go cheat on him than somebody cheating fell into her lap. I mean, it doesn't make
Mhm.
it any more right or wrong, but it's just she's more actively searching to have an affair on her husband. Um, so yeah, those are like, biggest differences. Um, yeah. Also, going more back to the Crypt Keeper, since, in this, there's a lot of golf puns he does, which
Oh yeah.
because it's a doctor's golf.
Yeah.
Um, so he he makes a par for the corpse joke, which I think was funny. But yeah, those are kind of the big differences between the comic version and the episode version. So yeah,
Okay.
I
Um,
liked it a little better than you did, but it's a decent episode. It's not a bad episode at all. Um,
no, not a horrible episode, just one that I don't see myself going back to as quickly as some of
right.
these others. Um, so that brings us to the last episode, which is a very
Wow.
serious episode. The main problem I had with this one,
Oh.
I
Okay.
didn't dislike it,
Hmm.
but it was a little longer than the others by at least I'd say about 10 minutes longer.
Something like that.
Instead of being like 27 minutes, it was like 37 minutes or something
There's a
like
reason
that.
behind that, by the way.
Oh, well, I'm going to let TJ
Well,
share.
not a big reason, but it's. Well, I can tell you now. There was originally going to be a spin-off series called Two Fisted Tales,
Okay.
and they had three stories, and one of them was this one, and there were two other ones written for the show, so they weren't
Uh-huh.
taken from any of the comics.
Ah,
This one
okay.
was from one of the comics. Like I said, this was a war, one of the earlier. Um, this was from a shock suspense story. I bit my lips, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna start talking weird now. I bit my tongue. Oh, I hate when you bite
Oh,
your tongue. I hate that. Anyway, yeah. So it was gonna be. It was gonna be. There wasn't gonna be the Crypt Keeper. There was gonna be. I watched it, and it was gonna be William Sadler. He was sort of gonna play. He was gonna
oh,
play this handicapped guy in a wheelchair who was sort of like. What was it Lee Emery? What's that guy's name?
Early Army or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. The I can't. I was gonna. I was trying to think of one of his lines from one of those movies. You maggot. You know that kind of.
Yeah, that kind of
He
stuff.
was
Yeah.
like very like. So he's like a war veteran, but he's like all you people are like wimps and pussies and he's very abusive sounding. Like I'm like I would want to come back to this every week to just hear him insult the audience for being, well, um, yeah, it was a weird. Yeah, so they were trying to do a spin-off series. So this was it, but they ended up adding it to Tales from the Crypt, and then I think one of the other episodes from that TV movie pilot ended up in the Tales from the Crypt. But I think it was like the only instance maybe where they had an original story that wasn't from one of the Tales from the Crypt or any of the EC comics.
Right.
But yeah, so it was
But
that's why it was a little longer because it was trying to fit a 90-minute.
okay. That make
Episode.
that makes sense.
Right.
And the other thing was, I thought at first that I wasn't going to like it because I'm not saying I don't like war things, but I thought, oh, is this going to. I was afraid I'd already saw how long it was going to be. And I was like, is this going to be slow and plotting and maybe have a stinger at the end? But then after a little bit, I got into it and I I'm gonna let TJ talk about the twist, but I kind of saw
All
the
right.
twist coming and kind of didn't see it. Um, but this has a lot of names that you will recognize: Kirk Douglas, Eric Douglas, Lance Henriksen's in this one, and Dan Aykroyd is in this one as
Yeah,
well.
He's not. There's no comedy in this. He's not really.
No, no, there's no comedy at all, and this one is directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Yep.
Um, as well. The screenplay is done by several people, Jim Thomas and John Thomas and Al Katz and Gilbert Adler, who weren't they also producers on this show?
Some of them were.
I thought Al Katz and Gilbert Adler were,
I think so.
but I'm going to let TJ start talking about Yellow, the episode Yellow.
Mm-hmm. So it opens up like Saving Private Ryan with the
Yeah,
people's hands get blown off. This is pretty like,
yeah, it's gruesome.
and I heard they spent like it was a more expensive episode because it was done for a movie. It was more expensive, um, but the production value, like the effects, for
Yeah,
the bodies and stuff like this, it's such a not that stuff in the I mean some stuff they spent a lot of good money on Tales from the Crypt. I mean, with time passing and compared to nowadays, you know, like stuff looks a little bit cheaper, but um, and this was before like Saving Private Ryan. Like, didn't that come out in like
I thought that was later because this was 91. This
98? So yeah,
episode.
so I think this was a predecessor to that. Also, like there's some scenes that are sort of um, were taken from a Kubrick movie called Paths of Glory, which
Okay.
also had Kirk Douglas playing a soldier.
Hmm.
So it's kind of interesting they got him to be in this episode, and it's also sort of the basis um, of some of the shots that were taken from that movie from Kubrick. But like I said, this was from an EC comic, so I don't know the correlation between when Kubrick's movie came out and when the comic um, story had come out. But it's very, like I said, there's a lot of arm. I mean, so um, Eric Douglas, which he died pretty young too. Kirk Douglas's son, who's in this,
Hmm.
which is kind of cool because they play father and son in this, so
Yeah.
it's kind of cool them playing. So yeah, Eric Douglas is the lieutenant. He's trying to find the sergeant or whatever, the head of the troop that's in. Meanwhile, all these people are getting killed left and right. Um, no, I think he's the no, no, he's the lieutenant. So I don't think it's the sergeant would have the sergeant's above lieutenant, right? So maybe it's not. Maybe he's not looking for the sergeant. He's
I
looking for.
think so.
He's looking for somebody. He's running sort of this faction of the platoon. They're trying to climb this hill or something to fight the Germans on the other side. It's like World War One, so he's fighting the. They fighting the Germans? Yeah, they're fighting the Germans. No, they're in France. I'm sorry. They're fighting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're fighting the Germans in France. Right, right. So they're on the what do you call it? The not the main line. What's it called? Um,
Mm,
I'm not military, so I don't know what the hell it's called.
yeah,
They're on the front lines. There we go.
yeah, front lines.
Yeah, so they're trying to storm the bad guys on the other side. Um, but everybody's getting killed because they're basically cornered, and lieutenant's looking for the guy because he's like, we gotta fall back. We can't push forward. Um, no, he is looking for the sergeant because Lance Henriksen is the sergeant, and he's like, we can't retreat. We gotta keep going. He's like, everybody's dying. I say, I'm your boss. You have to shoot the surrender flare or whatever. That we gotta get out of here. And he's like, no, we gotta do this now. You're yellow. You blah blah blah. You know. He's like, no, we gotta get out of here. Um, so they end up retreating. They end up going back. We meet Dan Aykroyd. He's the captain, and we meet the general, played by Kirk Douglas. And he's Lance Henriksen's the Sergeant Ripper, which is a weird name. Ripper? Is that supposed to mean he's a badass? I don't know. I guess. So he comes in. And he's like, he could, Kirk Douglas gives him a cigarette, because he's done his job, and he's like, um, so how'd it go? And he's like, we retreated. And he's like, what? Yeah, your son decided to retreat, and he's like, well, we're gonna our communication lines have been cut. We have to send a group in there to fix the line, and he wants his son to head the group. So Sergeant Ripper's like, sir, with all due respect, I don't think we shouldn't have your son. And Dan Aykroyd's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't include your son in this. And he's like, why? And he's like, Lance Henriksen's like, well, I don't want to insult you. And he's like, look, just spit it out. And he's like, he's yellow. He won't. He's like, my son? I'm the general here. How can my son be the coward? And he's like, he won't kill anybody, and he won't kill anybody, and he doesn't want to see people killed, but he also doesn't want to kill people. So he confronts his son, and his son is like, I never wanted to be in the war anyways. I basically did it because you're my dad and you wanted me to be a part of it. But he's like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to kill anybody, and I don't even want to be here anymore. I want you to send me to, like, the easy part of I guess there's easy parts of the war. I don't know. He wants to be in the rear where he doesn't want to be in the front lines anymore.
Well, yeah, and at first he wanted to be discharged, and his dad was like, I can't discharge you, but if you do this one thing for me, I'll get you off the front lines.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'll do it. So, they go. Meanwhile, it's one of those, one of those dads that was like military dad that was like never paid attention to his son, and he joined the army, so his dad would pay attention to him, but he doesn't want to. I mean, there's a fine line between being a coward and not wanting to die and not wanting to kill other people.
Right.
But what happens next kind of changes maybe your way of thinking, because anyway, him and the group go on this mission to fix the lines. So they're in the foxhole. I remembered that. I remember the foxhole. So they're in the foxhole, and they're like, he's about to retreat, and he's like, no, we got to do this, and you're the sergeant's. The sergeant picked you to do this, and we're going to do it. So, all right, you don't have to go, but we'll give you this whistle. And if you see the Germans coming, blow the whistle.
Yeah.
So we can get out of there and retreat. He's like, okay. So he's watching and waiting, and some time's going by, and he's getting more and more nervous. He sees the Germans coming. Now, he had said before, well, if I blow the whistle, aren't they going to hear me? He's like, no, don't worry about that. Just do it. So he sees the Germans coming, and he doesn't blow the whistle.
Yeah, and you're like, why did he not blow the whistle?
Yeah. Because they could have just, if he had seen them early enough, he saw them early enough that he could have gotten them out. He could have at least got them out of there. But no. And you're like, okay. And he runs away. Before he runs away, Henriksen gets blasted, and the blast flies his body out, and he hits him in the foxhole, and he's like, "Why didn't you blow the whistle? You son of a..." He didn't say son of a bitch, but he should have just said that, but he did anyway.
Yeah.
Like, blow the whistle, you coward. He runs off, lies to everybody, and says,
"Yeah.
They're all dead. I shot them all, and I shot all the Germans. I tried to help, but I just couldn't. I had to leave." He's lying his ass off, and they're sort of believing him. But guess what? They bring Henriksen in, and he's not dead. He's dying, but he's not dead.
Yeah, he's not dead yet. Yeah.
And he blows his story, and he's like, and he ends up dying anyways. And he's like, well, who are you going to believe? The son of the general, who's the lieutenant, or are you going to believe this guy who was just he was delirious from almost being dead and blah blah blah. And Kirk Douglas goes, "Let me see your gun,"
Yeah.
because even I was like, they could tell if your gun was fired, dude. That's a terrible. You should at least shot off some rounds as you were running away.
Yeah.
But nope. He gets his. He's like, well, we could tell if this was shot, was used, and it wasn't. I mean, so he's going to be brought up on charges, and he gets the firing squad for deserting, and you know, so Kirk Douglas visits him in the jail cell, and they have a moment between the two of them where he starts off, Henriksen's mad. I mean, Kirk Douglas is, pissed off that, you're my son, and how can you be a coward, and how could he's like, I never wanted to be in this, and he gives a speech about, how, you never were there for me, and I was trying to get your attention, and you even that you didn't, it didn't make you care anymore about me. And he's like, I don't want to die, and there's a scene before he goes into the cell where it's like, well, give me your shoelaces because we don't want you hanging yourself before we kill you.
Yeah, and then I think Dan Aykroyd took his belt too.
Yeah. But he just ripped off his shoelaces and threw them at his dad, and he's like, telling him off basically. And anyway, so they have this big speech and this conversation and speech, and and it's really well done. Like I don't know Eric Douglas's work, but I think he was pretty good in his speech and everything like that. So Kirk Douglas comes up with an idea. We're gonna fake the firing squad thing. So and I guess they did this. They really did this with firing squads. They didn't want the person who ends up killing them to psychologically damage them. So everybody except for one person is going to get blanks. So the person who kills them isn't going to know, so they won't feel the guilt of murdering the person, which is what they did back then. Or I don't know if they do it nowadays, but this wars are still going on in the world, so we can't say, "Oh, war's over now." No, it's not really.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. So he's like, "Okay, you play dead. I'll distract the people from checking your body, and you're gonna sneak off, and I don't care what you do or whatever." Or actually, that's in the comic. He says, "I'll distract the people, and they won't pay attention to your body." But I think in this, he's like, "We'll get you. I'll get you out of here," or something like that. But anyway,
yeah, and the main thing is he wants him to be brave.
Yes. Is the reason why he tells him this is because he's going to go, all right, he says to him, and you act like you don't, first of all, you act like you don't know that you're not going to get killed in the firing squad.
Right.
But, it'll show that you're not yellow, that you're very, that you're accepting your fate and whatever. So he comes out in front of the firing squad, he gives a big speech. But they're not all blanks. He actually does get killed. We go over to his body. Lance and I think Dan Aykroyd. I keep saying Lance. Kirk Douglas and Dan Aykroyd kind of go over to his body, and he has one final look at his father, and then he dies, which is kind of a, you fucking bastard, you lied that you were gonna let me live. And Dan Aykroyd goes, see, he died a hero. He died. He didn't die a hero. He died not being a coward because he gave a speech about not dying. Dying for his people, and he gave he quoted Shakespeare and that kind of stuff. So he gave a good showing. But that was all Kirk Douglas's ruse. He lied to his son because he knew his son was going to be a coward about it, and he wanted for him. Not that he cared about his son, because you can see pretty much that he didn't give a crap about his son. Even gave him
No.
the sort of comments to his son about I wasn't a good father, and I didn't really, I wasn't really there for you, and I kind of forced you into it. Um, so he's kind of a scummy guy.
Yeah, and I knew he wasn't gonna make good on his promise to his son.
Because
I think
it's still an EC comic
right.
twist. So yeah, it's definitely it was very dramatic. I mean, there was no comedy in this. It's
No,
very serious. Like I said, that whole war scene at the beginning. Um,
very graphic.
yeah.
Even for an HBO show, it was graphic.
And one of the differences in the comics is they actually show the whole like battle.
Mhm.
You don't just see the beginning of it. You actually see like a big chunk of the battle. So the comic even went further than um, the TV show did. So which is kind of like wow. I'm sure it wasn't as gory, but they did show more of the battle.
Mhm. And you said this one wasn't a Tales from the Crypt or anything.
No, this was a shock suspense story. This was
Shock
shock suspense
system.
story number one. It came from. Um,
Okay. And I did not dislike this one at all. I didn't know at first how I was going to feel about it, but once
yeah.
it got into the core of the story, I was in it for the ride at that
Mhm.
point. And it turned out to be uh, a very good story. But I'm like TJ, the way you feel about Eric Douglas's character like changes in here. It's because like, why didn't you blow the damn whistle?
Yeah, yeah,
Eh, all he had to do was do that, and then they could have all got the hell out of there.
I know.
But that didn't really have anything to do with being a coward to me because all he was doing, he wasn't being asked to kill anybody. Um, he wasn't even being asked to put himself in much danger. All he was supposed to do is let the guys know if the Germans were coming so they
Yeah.
could all get the hell out of there. So that really didn't make sense to me. That really took any integrity that that character might have had way down to almost zero. And then the fact
I
that
do think the whole thing with the father and the you know him really not caring about his son.
yeah, well, Kirk Douglas's character in it was a cold-blooded son of a
Yeah,
bitch anyway. But
they're two sides of the same coin. Let's say, or maybe not, but he's not any. Kirk Douglas' character isn't a likable character the way,
no, not at
but
all.
his son also. I mean, like I said, like you said, the whistle thing is that's where I was like, oh, yeah, he kind of at least I don't know about the firing squad, but he definitely deserves the yellow coward moniker. That definitely he deserves that.
Mm.
Um,
But I think we would have felt worse for Eric Douglas's character if he hadn't done what he did or not did what he was supposed to do. If he had done what he was supposed to do, I think he would have been a little more of a sympathetic character. And so I think what happened to him at the end would have been more powerful. Do you agree with that, TJ?
yeah,
Um, so I think that may have been the only disservice they did to that story, but it was still, once I got into it, it was a very good story, very graphic, as we said. And TJ, you said the comic was even more graphic than the episode,
well,
right?
there's definitely they add more to the war. We see more of the battle. We don't just see the little ending part. Um,
But is there anything else you want to add about that episode, TJ?
um, the only the well, William N. Gaines, one of the
Mm-hmm.
the EC Comics writers passed away. Like I think early two, early '92, like June, something like that.
Uh,
So that's just sort of a note that he didn't. He died not too long after
mm,
this last episode aired, uh,
right.
and
I.
I think it was also an episode that was more of a serious,
Mm-hmm.
not just also showed that EC Comics wasn't just like a fun pulp um, kids you know comic book thing. It was they tried to tackle actual serious stuff, especially in the earlier days.
I
Well,
have a little bit of trivia about Eric Douglas that I did not know that he was childhood friends with Jamie Lee Curtis. But when they were kids, they were sitting in a tree and he tried to kiss her and
KISS.
she pushed him and he fell off the tree and I think they said he had a brain hernia or something that he had to be operated on because she pushed him out of the tree because he tried to
Oh,
kiss her.
Jamie Lee.
Yeah, how could you do that? But anyway, I just thought that I'd add that little tidbit of information. Blitzel says it was interesting they chose World War One. That was brutal combat.
Yeah,
Um, but that means we have officially reached the end of season three of Tales from the Crypt. And next Wednesday, barring anything happening, we will be covering, I guess, the first 7 episodes of season four, which will actually have Tom Hanks in
yes.
that season. I may use the
You can
same
use
picture
this one, yeah.
and we can use it again. I'll just have season four on there instead of
There you go.
season three. Um, but TJ, you got anything that you want to promote or anything like that?
No, nothing really is going on. Uh, Thanksgiving's next week, so
You still waiting for your friend to read that script?
yeah, I gotta rethink the whole script
Uh oh.
because it part of it closely resembles a movie, and I was like, oh shit, did I just plagiarize myself? But
I know you didn't do it on purpose.
no, but I was like, oh, we were talking about it after the screening of Thanksgiving yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie that it kind of reminded me of, and hopefully, if the twist of it isn't in the movie, I'll have to rewrite part of it and not the whole thing. So
Right. I think that happens to a lot of people that, whether they're making full length movies or they're making shorts, the more movies you watch, that stuff's just going to get in your head and you're going to forget, you know, what stuff came from movies or what stuff did I come up with on my own. So I think I mean, copyright people wouldn't see it as innocent, but I feel like it's an innocent thing. I I think some people might try to do it on purpose, but I definitely know TJ, you're not trying to do that on purpose. Um,
no, I even stop myself. I'm like, I'll write something. I go, oh no, this is from something else. I heard this. Even if it's like even slightly resembles something, I'm like, oh no. Especially horror fans are the most brutal fans, where they won't
yes,
let you
they are.
forget shit. Like, they won't
No,
forget.
they will call you out on that if you
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
do that. Uh, but let's see what I've got. Tomorrow night, unless I'm really, really sick or something, I will do a seductive poison the resurgence. I'll try to do it on something. I'll come up with some kind of thing. And anybody can feel free to join me on that. Since I don't have a steady co host right now, it's kind of a free for all. If you want to join in, just let me know. I don't want it to be a free for all in the case of people doing nefarious, naughty things that they shouldn't be doing. Um, but people that I know and have been on these streams before with me, if you guys or gals want to come on, then you are welcome to. Just say, "Hey, Dana, I need that link. I want to come on there." And um, I see another thread. Me and TJ are going to be picking threads out of our new shirts here. Um, but let's see. And Friday will be another midday with Dana and Jay. Me and Jay are going to finish up our music madness. We think 3 parts to our music madness will be enough. We're going to be showing a few more things and talking about uh, bands and music in general and all
The
that.
closing credit song in Thanksgiving. I don't know if I won't
Is
spoil
there?
what it is. I'll let you watch it and find out for yourself. But I don't know if it's a band that you probably know who they are, but I'm not gonna.
Well, I'm intrigued now. I'm curious about it.
And
Uh,
it sounds like something some people from Boston would sing because of the lyrics, but I don't.
you don't want to give too much away about it, do you, TJ? And also, this weekend, the watch alongs will be Home Sweet Home on Saturday. Everybody's probably going to have to watch, unless you got a VCR and an old VHS
Yeah.
laying around somewhere, or you've transferred it from VHS to DVD or DVD-R or something. Imagine all of us are going to be watching it through YouTube, including this person right here, because I have an old VHS, but I don't know where it is, and I don't know if I have a working VCR I could play it in anyway. So we're probably just going to have to watch it on YouTube. I'll try to put the link for it in the description for that watch along. And then November 19th, which is Sunday, we'll be home for the holidays with Holly Hunter and Robert Downey Jr. So we've got a scary Thanksgiving horror film on Saturday, and we've got a comedic one on Sunday. And then I was going to do Misery on November 25th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But Uncle Bill, yet again, talked me into doing the initiation, which I didn't have until April of next year. So I switched things around a little bit so we could do initiation. Excuse me.
That's it.
Thank you. Um, and then November 26th will be I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is the Beatles themed film. So, uh, and the movie Munchies will return this Sunday, hopefully, unless I'm
Ooh.
bedridden or dead. And I hope I'm not dead. I
Is it
hope I'm
something
not
what are you
bedridden.
making?
Okay, no, I can tell you what I'm planning on making. I This is something I come up with on my own, and I've been talking to Blissful about it, and she thought it was a cool idea. But I'm going to be making phantasm sphere popcorn balls.
Ah.
So I'm going to have the popcorn balls already made up before I start, because I figure if you guys and gals want to make this, you can look up your favorite recipe for popcorn balls and you can make them. But what I'm going to show you mainly is how to decorate it. And I'm making fondant blades to put on it. Even though Wes says fondant is nasty, that's what I'm going to use to make my blades on the popcorn ball. So that's what we're planning on doing, or what I'm planning on doing on Sunday.
Or you can use modeling chocolate. I
Yeah, I didn't think of that,
think that's a little bit more sturdy too.
Serty. Um, the only thing is, I got this silver fondant, and I'm going to try it and see if this works. If it doesn't, I'll say, well, live and learn. The next time I make these, I'll use the modeling chocolate. Um, I was just didn't know if I could make that silver, because I've got edible silver glitter. I've got edible silver cake paint, and
Yeah.
I've got all these things. And I guess I was trying to keep with the the silver thing on it, but we'll see how it goes. The plates may flop. I may not be able to get them to stay on there, but we'll see what we can do with them.
Oh no, you should. I don't. You'd have to come up with the recipe or what. You should do something for like blood rage, like a blood rage snack, something with
Mm,
cranberry sauce or I don't know.
yeah, I could probably do that. I'm going to be making upcoming. I'm going to be making Evil Dead Deadite nachos, which is something I came up with myself too.
What?
Because I was thinking of all the nasty gunk that comes out of the Deadites at the end of like the first one, and I was thinking I could just throw
Appetizing.
everything into these nachos. I could have guacamole and say it's like some of the green crap that came out of them and stuff like that.
I think that might have been what they used.
I think they used oatmeal at one point, which I don't want to put oatmeal on the nachos, but it, there was, blood mixed in there. I could put, salsa in there. I can put guacamole in it. I can put sour cream and say it's that white milky shit that came out of them. The possibilities are endless, I think, with that. Uh, and I was also gonna try to figure out a way to like I maybe was gonna do it with like jalapenos or something. Make a face that looked like the face that was on the Necronomicon.
Oh, that sounds cool.
So I'm gonna play around with it and may do a trial run before I actually do a movie munchies on it
Hmm.
and see what I can do with it. Blissful says a lava cake with red lava. I might be able to do that.
Hmm.
Um, And Blissful also says that another great live, you two. So thank you, Blissful. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. So I guess it is almost midnight. Or midnight here where I'm at.
My fault.
No, it's not your fault, TJ. We did a few extra things, but it's not a big deal. Um, but I guess it's time for me and TJ to skedaddle on out of here for the night and before it becomes morning. And I'll see everybody next time. And TJ, let me know if you want to join in on the Seductive Poison the Resurgence tomorrow. You don't have to, but if you want to, I'll probably try to do some kind of Thanksgiving type deal. Um, and that means, Blissful, I'm still waiting for you to come on here with me or me and other people at some time. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen one of these days. So anyway, everybody, I want to thank TJ for being my handsome co-host.
Man.
I don't say lovely anymore because I don't want to call guys lovely. So I call Jay my handsome co-host. I call TJ my handsome co-host. Um, I would call Uncle Bill my handsome co-host, but I might get smacked by Savannah if I did that. So I better not do that.
Depends on how long her arm is, if she can reach your height.
Well, I know TJ. As far as I know, you're single and Jay's single, so I figure I'm safe to call you guys handsome. Not gonna be a woman wanting to claw my eyes out or something for calling y'all handsome. So, but TJ might have a woman hidden somewhere. I don't know.
In the backyard, maybe.
Maybe she has to work the night shift and she's just not she's not there when TJ's
On
doing
the night shift. Okay.
it.
I'm not gonna sing. All right, all right. Anyway, let's get out of here.
Yeah, and thank you guys and gals for being in the chat tonight. And we are gonna say sayonara for now. We're getting out of here, and we'll see you next time. Night, everybody.
All right.